Hello, friends. Welcome to something a little bit different. Um, on Sunday, which was yesterday, I ran the modern Super Qualifiers with the Yawgmoth Combo deck, and while I didn't do it on stream, I did do exceptionally well. Made it to 13th with 8-2. Four players with 8-2 made it into the top 8. So it really came down to breakers. I'm very, very satisfied with my performance. And I thought that maybe I might be able to record it, do some commentary, and share it with some of you. Even though I didn't stream it while I was competing, we might still be able to get some value out of this. We are going to be using MTGO's replay system, which is very finicky. There could be some points where we're just going to have to quit a game and move on to the next one, just because sometimes the system will crash. But there's 10 rounds in this event, so I think we'll get plenty of cool content and good games. So this is the deck that I ran. Fairly stock. Some of the things that you might notice are it has a Reclamation Sage in the main, which I think is very good right now. I'm running a Spellskite in the main as something that we can use with Chord of Calling to protect Yawgmoth from a removal spell. Hapatra, I think, is become stock at this point. I'm also running 2 Birds of Paradise. I'm running that as opposed to a 20-second land. I'm also choosing Bird of Paradise over Goose. I think we get more mana more consistently out of Bird of Paradise. So I'm more interested in that rather than the creature that survives the Wrenn and 6, the Lava Dart, and only gives us mana that one time. Also, we haven't really been seeing too much burn, so I don't really feel like we need the Goose. Sideboard is another spell board. Same one that we were running last time we played the Yawgmoth deck. It's got Fatal Push for all those pesky creature decks that are going to be really, really quick. We just need a removal spell at a crucial time to buy an extra turn. Thoughtseize versus combo decks. Veil of Summer versus Control. Gaea's Blessing versus Mill. Endurance plays a lot of roles, but it's very good against graveyard decks and very good against Mill. Force of Vigor versus Hammer Time. Baloth versus any decks that could run Kroxa. We actually have a second Grist in the sideboard, which originally I wasn't too hyped on, but I've changed the way that I do my sideboarding sometimes, and the second Grist has actually been incredible with this small change. So in games where we're really going to be focused on the individual value of each card, I'm siding out some copies of Bird of Paradise and Ignoble Hierarch, maybe Wall of Roots, to just bring in more quality cards. That means that the deck isn't as quick or as explosive, but it does mean that each draw off the top is going to be generally, on average, better. Finally, we've got Void Mirror. This is obviously for any of the Cascade decks. Don't Bring It In versus Hammer Time. Again, I think that this could easily just be Chalice of the Void, but Void Mirror works fine, so take your pick. Alright, so this is opening hand of game 1. So with an unknown opponent with Lurrus, we're on the play. I think that this hand is keepable because we can turn 2 Hapatra, turn 3 Messenger, turn 4 evolve the Messenger into Yawgmoth and combo. But it's a little bit awkward. And I think with the Geralf's Messenger and the Hapatra, we wouldn't quite be ready to combo immediately, or we would lose the Messenger or something. anyways, long story short, I decide to mulligan this hand. And we get something that is quite a bit faster with a Yawgmoth. So we don't know what the opponent is playing, but we do know they have a Lurrus. So we're going to give this one a shot. Getting rid of an Ignoble Hierarch. So we'll be able to get Yawgmoth out quick. And if they're playing Hammer Time, which they aren't, this hand would have been very, very strong. But just because they're playing Lurrus doesn't mean that they're on Hammer Time. There are a few other decks that play it. So they play Scalding Tarn, and immediately I know, okay, this is not Hammer Time, Basic Mountain, and Darcy. So Eldritch Evolution is the draw. We're going to continue to put some creatures onto the board here. So a second Ignoble Hierarch and a Young Wolf, and then we get to attack in with Ignoble Hierarch for 2 because of the Exalted triggers. And opponent starts their second turn. So they get to start with a Mishra's Bauble. Keeping a card on top with the Dragon Rage Channeler. And targeting us with the Bauble. They get to see what we're about to draw. And Thoughtseize, which is pretty good here, being able to take the Yawgmoth. Eldritch Evolution is not going to be able to get us Yawgmoth with the current board. So very well timed Thoughtseize, although it is reducing their life total. And they'll just keep Dragon Rage Channeler back. It doesn't need to attack if they don't have Delirium yet. Okay, so we attack with Young Wolf here, which get the 2 Exalted triggers. So we get to attack with a 3/3. Yeah, and then I thought they cast a Lightning Bolt here at Ignoble Hierarch during combat, which actually takes us off of some of our mana. I had originally intended to cast Wall of Roots into an Eldritch Evolution here to go get Yawgmoth, but I was going to attack with the Young Wolf first, get the Exalted triggers. I never thought they were actually going to Lightning Bolt a Hierarch during combat, but they did, and that really kind of messed up what I wanted to do with my next play. So we get in for 3, play a Wall of Roots, and pass back with Eldritch Evolution rotting in hand. So another Thoughtseize takes the evolution out of our hand, but knocks the opponent's life total down again. They surveil a Ragavan into the graveyard, and they're at 8 life. They play a fetch land, which, if they want to use that for mana, is going to cost them more life. They have to attack in with the Dragon Rage Channeler, attacks every combat. I find I do that quite a bit, though, when I am playing Darcy. I'll move to attacks, and I'll click it, because I want to attack with it, but it's already attacking, so it comes back, and then I got to click it again. You know how it is. Alright, so we're going to leave the Peatland as is. We want to keep that for mana. We could have drawn a card with it, but want to be able to cast a Yawgmoth if we draw it, or get those Chords of Calling going, but we get Geralf's Messenger instead. So we attack in for 2 with Yawgmoth. Opponent goes down to 6. And play Geralf's Messenger. Opponent goes down to 4. Almost there. Okay, Bloodstained Mire, they go down to 3. And play Turak Dread Cantor. Not a card you generally see. So let's just take a moment to appreciate that. 2 mana, protection from white. Whenever an opponent discards a card, put a +1/+1 counter on it. When Turak enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, target opponent discards 2 cards at random. Spicy. They attack in with Darcy because they have to, and we draw land. So we can play that, and we have a draw with Peatland. We also have some attacks here. So I attack here first. I think I should have actually drawn the card in case we drew like a Geist or something to cast an attack with. So block the Messenger. And then I think they have, yep, Lightning Bolt for the Yawgmoth. So they're not going to take any damage from the wolf. And Geralf's Messenger should put them to 1. Alright, so we draw Overgrown Tomb, not punished. And opponent scoops it up. That's game 1. In the bag. Hey there, the Examiner. Don't know if you stuck around for all the game 1 there, but thanks for stopping on by. Doing some commentary on the games that I played on Sunday. Hey, thanks. We got a whole bunch more to get through here. This was a long event. 10 rounds. Alright, let's move on to game 2. Okay, so we can pull out the sideboard here to get an idea of how we boarded. We took out some of the mana creatures. Took out the Bird of Paradise. Looks like we brought in Grist. I think we should have brought in the Obstinate Baloth here, but it looks like we kept that out. What else did we bring in here? Ooh, cannot click that because this is up. I think that that would have been a fine play. There were a lot of options to go on that game, and a lot of options to play with this deck, which is one of the reasons why I really like it. Alright, let's dig into it. Well, as far as a starting hand goes, this is an easy mulligan. We don't have to think about that one. Single land Twilight Mire, that's never a keep. And here we get a much better hand, especially in a grindy matchup. Plenty of lands. We have Grist, we have Yawgmoth. I think we get rid of the Spellskite here. Yep. So opponent starts with a Thoughtseize. They get to see our hand, and they have a choice of a lot of great cards. They end up taking the Grist. And we draw land. So Verdant Catacombs to start. We can go and get a Overgrown Tomb with that. Or Basic Forest. I guess I might have been scared of Blood Moon, but I don't really think that is honestly a worry here. I guess it doesn't really hurt too much to play around it. Unless I want to play Messenger turn 3. So here we draw Veil of Summer, but if we want to play Strangleroot Geist, we're going to have to take that down. We're able to attack for 2 and start a clock. So opponent's turn 3, play the Shinka Bloodsoaked Keep. Some of these Kamigawa lands are actually seeing a lot of play recently because some of the legends that we now have access to are actually quite good. For example, Lurrus is a card that you're going to be looking at almost every game. So you're able to use these things to actually legitimately give your creature an ability that you want. So the First Strike one is very good. The white land that prevents 2 damage to a legendary creature is seeing some play. Okay, speaking of Lurrus, they put the cat to hand and send it back to us for our turn 3. So play a land, attack with Geist. They play Dragon Rage Channeler and pass. So honestly, I was definitely hoping that they would tap out here so that we could, like, Verdant Catacombs, go get Dryad Arbor and slam Yawgmoth without fear. So let's see what we fetch here. How brave are we? Overgrown Tomb. Alright, that's fair. Draw Khalni Garden, which will be another creature for the Yawgmoth, which will be nice. Attack with the Geist for a couple more damage. And opponent now falls to 12. They still have 5 cards in hand and 3 mana up. So they probably have some form of interaction here. But we slam the Yawgmoth, and in response they Lightning Bolt our Geist. So we got some damage in it in combat, and they're going to Lightning Bolt it here to mean that we're not going to be able to get some extra advantage out of it with Yawgmoth. Makes sense. But, I mean, it does still come back. So that's some good value on our side. They use a Lightning Bolt for half of our card. We still have a 3/2 creature and a Yawgmoth. So they play Kroxa here. I'm wondering if I should have tried to kill Darcy here with a Strangleroot Geist. In any event, I end up actually discarding the Khalni Garden, which is going to cost me 3 life, but my leftovers are very good. I didn't want to lose them. Fatal Push and Veil of Summer are going to be very, very strong in this matchup. Okay, so it's too late now to kill the Dragon Rage Channeler, which means they're going to be attacking with it now, and they have Unholy Heat for the Yawgmoth to kill. So we lost our chance to get rid of their attacker here, and they're going to be turning the tables. With the Lurrus known in hand, this is definitely a scary position. But we have the Fatal Push as a holdover here. So we have a lifeline. And our clock is a little bit faster right now. Alright, so we start with a attack for 3. And play the Wall of Roots. So we have a blocker for Ragavan. So the Inquisition here, which means we're going to be using the Veil of Summer. Drawing Eldritch Evolution, very, very nice. Can evolve that Wall of Roots into another Yawgmoth. So here they attack us for 3, we drop to 8, so it's 8 each side. And here they use Kroxa, but we just use Veil of Summer this round, right? So each opponent discards a card, so it doesn't target. I think we... nice. Draw a card with the Nurturing Peatland, we can keep the Evolution and the Fatal Push. Doesn't mean we take another 3 though, so we drop to 5. Go grab Endurance, which is going to clean up their graveyard. We can Fatal Push the Kroxa with the Endurance trigger on the stack, getting rid of the Kroxa permanently, and leaving nothing for the Lurrus. Attack for 3, and the Endurance can block the Dragon Rage Channeler. So Endurance getting some value here. It's not exactly a card that I expect to evoke in this matchup, but it's absolutely a card that I think is reasonable as a 3-mana flash. 3/4 with reach. The ability has relevance in this matchup. Another Veil of Summer. I think this is actually just a total blowout. Like, yeah. So they call against command, and the card that we happen to draw is Veil of Summer. It's not Eldritch Evolution, it's not Yawgmoth, it's not any of the plethora of creatures that we have in the deck. We just happen to draw Veil of Summer. Chord of Calling would have also been an exceptional draw here, obviously. But I think this is probably just the best one. So we draw Grist. We're able to attack here. They have to block. Dropping them to 2 life, and we're able to slam the Grist. So this puts us at a very advantageous position, but, opponent has Lurrus plus Dragon Rage Channeler. We play Hierarch, sacrifice Hierarch, destroy Lurrus with Grist, and let's swing it again. Opponent they still have stuff, so Unholy Heat kills the Strangleroot Geist. Block the Endurance, go to 1. Opponent's really fighting for their life. And that's the game. So this is sort of what I was talking about earlier. Taking out some of the mana creatures here, take out some of the air out of the deck, and then bring in just some more solid cards. So just having Endurance instead of another Ignoble Hierarch, having the second Grist instead of a Bird of Paradise. Like I was saying before, Obstinate Baloth would have been a card that I wanted to bring in this matchup because they are playing Call Against Command and Kroxa. I think that I actually do bring in Baloth in a similar matchup later on in the event. But I think that I either got the idea to finally start finally start doing this either from the Discord. Tom Ross has a section in his Discord for Yawgmoth discussion. Either that or Hoogland's video. They came out a little while ago. So even though I've been playing the Yawgmoth deck for a very long time now, I'm still learning things all the time. We're going to be playing against Yawgmoth Combo this time. Didn't know MTGO records the games. They do, but it is not something I would ever rely on. I think, like, I'm assuming, but I'm guessing that at some point today, some of these games are just going to crash, and we're not going to be able to finish them. But if you're interested, you go into the settings and game history, and that's where you can find your previously played games. Okay. Let's get into round 2, game 1. So, looks like we keep our 7 here. Opponent does the same. This hand is a little bit awkward. We get the turn 1 Overgrown Tomb, Hierarch, but turn 3 looks like it's going to be Dryad Arbor, and we need to draw some lands soon. But, yeah, this hand looks fine to keep. So opponent starts with Razorverge Thicket and Arbor Elf. Not a combination you see too often. We do manage to draw land here, which I'm pretty happy about. Overgrown Tomb into Hierarch, pass back. Opponent plays Conclave Mentor, so at this point we know exactly what we're playing against. Not something that I expected to see. Normally like to have Blight Beetle for this matchup, but with Heliod basically out of the meta, haven't had any real reason to have the creature in my sideboard. We do lose to Unbound Life, so this is a difficult matchup because the opponent can kill us not only with the Walking Ballista, but also with the Spike Feeder. So Strangleroot Geist comes in for 3. Figure no way they're going to block this. Play a Young Wolf. And hope we draw a land that we can tap for mana. So opponent plays Collected Company. And they get Skyclave Apparition and Heliod. Pretty good hit. Apparition takes the Geist. So we're not able to combo next turn anymore. No blocks here, we'll take the damage. Blooming Marsh is a great draw, so we can go ahead and put the Yawgmoth down this turn. But here I make a crucial error. I needed to just pass the turn here, but instead I decided to kill their Arbor Elf. It looked like easy pickings, but it was a terrible mistake. So we attack in for 2, and then, yeah, I kill their Arbor Elf with my Young Wolf. Huge mistake. Here they play Spike Feeder, and because they have the Conclave Mentor, it has 3 counters, not 2. So we have 2 creatures here. This is where our trouble begins. They try and activate the Spike Feeder. It has 2 counters on it now. And I make another mistake. Just, like one into the other. Target the Young Wolf with the Ignoble Hierarch. What I needed to do was just target the Spike Feeder. We lose our entire board, but at least we don't lose the game. I found the line to lose the game. Okay, so we can't get them every time. Played a little bit sloppy on this one. It has been a while since I played against Heliod. let's see how the next game goes. And I just like concede here because at this point they have Unbound Life. I'm not interested in angle shooting for the clock here in this match. This is pretty cut and dry for me. Opponent gains infinite life with Spike Feeder. With Yawgmoth, we lose. Alright, let's take a quick look at what's left in our sideboard here. So it looks like we took out some Bird of Paradise. Should have this written down so I can just easily switch back and say, oh yeah, what was sideboarded? So this looks like we brought in Thoughtseize and Fatal Push. Hey there, Dollar Cutie. Yeah, we're actually replaying the Super Qualifier right now. Any chance of recording a weekend challenge anytime soon? Probably not. This was a pretty special event. A lot of things just happened to line up, so I decided to play the event. Thanks everybody for the well wishes. I won't really be responding during the playback of the matches, but in between, absolutely love to chat back with y'all. Hey, little jelly bean. Thanks a lot for stopping in, and yeah, I don't know how long this thing's gonna go. It was a lot of rounds of Magic, so hopefully we'll still be here. All right, friends, let's get back into it. A little bit of banter back and forth. So we get the start here. Turn 1 Ignoble Hierarch. We got a pair of Chord of Callings. So the hand isn't exactly as fast as I would like. I would have liked one of these Chord of Callings to have been like an Undying Creature or something. But I felt like this was good enough that we could keep it. And we could find the Young Wolf quite quickly. So we managed to draw Yawgmoth off the top here, which is pretty nice. But we don't quite have enough mana to go get Young Wolf, and I make another mistake here. Playing the Urborg. I needed to play the Peatland so that Chord of Calling could have been used to go get a Dryad Arbor. And then we would have 3 creatures and a bunch of mana. We could put Yawgmoth down and be able to machine gun whatever they play. So since we can't do that, realize my mistake, go ahead and attack for 2 with Ignoble Hierarch. Might as well make the best of a bad situation at that point. Opponent plays Conclave Mentor. So they're setting up, but they're a little bit slow. Didn't have anything to increase their mana on turn 1. Turn 2, they have Mentor. So the earliest that the opponent is going to win is on their turn 4. So we just slam the Yawgmoth. Attack for 2, pass the turn. Opponent plays Heliod. So we get Peatland. What can we do here with 2 Chord of Calling? Well, we don't have to spend too much time thinking about it here because past me has already thought all this out. Looks like first we go get a Young Wolf. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 mana, so we can go get another Young Wolf. And we can start the combo from here. So yeah, we kill their creature. They play Spike Feeder, but we have plenty of creatures in order to kill the Spike Feeder before they're able to gain Unbound Life. So with Trigger on the stack, if they tried it, we would just kill the Spike Feeder, but they don't even bother. They realize that we're too smart for that. I think that we Thoughtseize and they concede here. No, we're going to play it out a little bit here. We can just draw Unbound cards. We don't have to Thoughtseize. Yeah, okay, so that makes sense. The Thoughtseize would actually lose us life, which would mean we would not get as many card draws. And I'm looking for a specific card here. I want to find Chord of Calling or Eldritch Evolution. So at this point, we can evolve one of our Ignoble Hierarchs, go get Zulaport Cutthroat, and our combo at this point is going to kill the opponent. So before we were losing a life for every iteration of the combo, we sacrifice a creature, we reset the other creature, draw a card, lose a life, blah, blah, blah. Zulaport Cutthroat means that we're no longer losing the life effectively, and that our opponent is losing a life instead. Now, I say effectively because we are actually going to lose that one life, which is why the Yawgmoth deck needs to stay at 2 life in order to be able to combo. Once the Yawgmoth deck actually goes down to 1, we need to find a way to boost that life total back up before we're able to use Yawgmoth effectively. Okay, so that was a win. Let's move on to the final game of this round. Hey there, Handsome. Thank you for the sub, my friend. Sub baby's name is Subarella. Happy vacation. Well, thank you very much. It's been to a pretty nice start so far. Had a wonderful showing on Sunday, and we're revisiting that now. Thank you again for the support, my friend. Okay, so starting hand for round 3. Not exactly what I'm looking for. 1 land hand, doesn't have any fast mana. I mean, we have the Fatal Push, but this is really not where I want it to be. So I think nobody's surprised we mulligan that first one. This hand is definitely playable. Okay, yeah, we get rid of the evolution there. We already have the combo in hand. We're just looking for some lands. Although I think that actually we should have kept the evolution and got rid of the Yawgmoth, because the evolution costs 3 mana, Yawgmoth costs 4, so we actually need to now draw 2 lands instead of only needing to draw 1 land if we had gotten rid of Yawgmoth and kept evolution. So we draw evolution, so it doesn't matter. Not punished. Play Young Wolf. Opponent plays Conclave Mentor for their turn 2. We draw Essence Warden, so we're just going to slam Strangleroot Geist here and hope that we don't die. And that we draw land. Okay, so turn 3, they cast Collect a Company. We just got to cross our fingers and hope that they don't find the combo here. So they get Skyclave Apparition and Spike Feeder. Spike Feeder is the 3/3. Apparition can get rid of Strangleroot Geist, which is a huge pain because that means that Eldritch Evolution is no longer going to be able to go and get us Yawgmoth if we draw the land. So we do draw the land here, and I actually spent a huge amount of time in the tank here, if I remember correctly, deciding on what I wanted to do. If I wanted to play out Essence Warden and Zulaport Cutthroat and gamble that the opponent just didn't have it, and be able to have a good turn on our turn 4. Or if I should Eldritch Evolution the Yawgmoth into Grist and just kill the Spike Feeder. I decided to set up my best possible turn 4, which turns out to be the line that ends up losing us this match, because opponent does have it. They have the Heliod, and that's it. GG. Like I said before, we're not going to try and angle shoot this matchup at all. Spike Feeder plus Heliod, they have infinite life. In this matchup, that is game. All right. And Handsome, the chat log is only showing up whatever we said during these particular games. So because this is game 3, it's not showing whatever I said during game 1. But we did actually have some friendly banter games 1 and 2. Okay, so we get the die roll. We see Lurrus, which means we assume hammer time. But this hand is incredible. Yawgmoth, Strangleroot Geist, Eldritch Evolution. This hand has everything we could want, and we even get to like slam down a Wall of Roots for extra mana. So start with a Forest, play a Yawgmoth. And this is where I realized that we're not playing against Hammer Time. We're playing against Mill. So we draw Peatland, which means we do not have to fetch yet. Play that Peatland. And I decide to go with Strangleroot Geist, so that we can get in 1 point of damage here. Or rather 2, of course. They're not going to break Strangleroot Geist. This crab only has 2 toughness. What a weak crab. Ugh. Okay, well that's what I get for making fun of crabs. They play another one and a fetch land. So that is going to be 12 cards that we're going to mill. And being a combo deck, our individual cards can be very important. If opponent has Surgical, for example, and they mill a Yawgmoth, then we're not a Yawgmoth deck anymore. At that point, we're just attacking with Undying Creatures. Speaking of which, here's an attack with Undying Creatures. So we get another 2 damage in, knocking them down to 16. And this is where we can activate their trap card. So we fetch out a land. Eldritch Evolution, the Strangleroot Geist. Alright, so they let the Geist resolve. And yeah, they cast Archive Trap in response to the evolution. Let's bring the graveyard out here, so you can see the action as it takes place. So no Yawgmoths were milled this day, but they have another Archive Trap. So 13 more cards. And that mills 3 Yawgmoths. 1 left in the deck. Prismatic Vista for an island, which another 6 cards milled off the top. But it does not hit 4th Yawgmoth. But at this point, we only have 12 cards left in our deck. Visions of Beyond, wow, that works pretty well. So yeah, they're going to be able to reload that, go to 5. So yeah, we search our library, which doesn't have a lot of things left in it. We can go get Yawgmoth here if we want. But do I honestly want to be drawing a lot of cards? Not really. Every card I draw is sort of good for them. But we do want to get rid of these Hedron crabs. So that's worthwhile. They have a Ruin Crab and a Fetch Land, so that's basically GG. No laughter necessary. We have no cards left in our library, so we lose this game. Not able to combo if we have no library. So game 1, very difficult against Mill. Games 2 and 3, we have some secret weapons. Now, the matchup has definitely gone back and forth here quite a bit. We started out having a very difficult matchup versus Mill. We've started sideboarding in cards. Gaea's Blessing gave us a bit of a boost. And then getting Endurance was absolutely incredible. One of the best cards that we possibly could ever have versus Mill. They got the Hideous Laughter, which can actually exile the Blessing or the Endurance, meaning they could have absolutely no benefit. So a lot of back and forth in this matchup. It's pretty interesting as far as the history of that matchup has been. All right, so we're on the play this time. We decide to mill that because, I mean, we're basically gaining life every time we mulligan, right? Because we're putting an extra card back on top of our library. So we're basically gaining 1 life every time we mull, right? Right. So we put Chord of Calling back on top. Looks like opponent is on a mulligan as well. Khalni Garden to start, pass back. Opponent has a Soul Guide Lantern, so they're going to be able to keep us from doing our combo thing. But we're not about that, we're about damage. Let's attack with Strangleroot Geist. Opponent holds up 2 mana and passes back. Okay, so we draw Thoughtseize here. Actually seems like a pretty good draw, so we'll go ahead and cast that. And opponent cycles Fractured Sanity in response. So we're going to mill a bunch of cards, one of which is Endurance, which is going to be important in a moment here. Surgical Extraction, targeting our Endurance. So they're able to pull one of our best sideboard cards out of our deck. We'll put that back. Moto will bring it back out. So at this point, Thoughtseize resolves. We see Crab, another Surgical Extraction, and Visions. So let's see here. What do I end up taking here? I think I might have actually taken Crab. I do, too. I end up taking the Crab because I'm just going to be... My plan here is just to attack. So their Surgical Extraction isn't really affecting my game plan of attacking in with my 2/2s. And the other card they had, the Visions of Beyond, isn't going to be drawing them anything anytime soon. Or, I mean, like, 1 card. Whatever. So, Thoughtseize Glitch. Because why not? Here's a Ruin Crab. That is the card we just took out of their hand, yes. And it has 3 toughness, so... block Strangleroot Geists. So we just draw another land here. Play Yawgmoth. I have to be careful about sacrificing my Strangleroot Geists, because if they hit the graveyard, opponent can Surgical Extraction, and I won't be getting my Geist back. But one thing I could do there is I attack in. They block with Rune Crab, take 2 damage, and I have a plant here that I don't mind sacrificing, and that gets rid of the crab. So sure, they saved themselves 2 damage, they're at 10 instead of 8, but they lost their crab, and I think that, yeah, at that point, they just pack it up. Okay, so that's game 2. Let's move on to game 3. This is a pretty easy mull. Once again, if we're mulliganing, we're putting cards back on top of our library, and you might actually notice that we have 7 cards in our hand and 37 cards left in our deck. That's right. We actually brought in extra cards out of our sideboard. That is allowed. Our sideboard is smaller now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That gives us, it's like starting the game with 4 extra life, chat. So that puts us up to like 5 extra life this game. Because we put extra cards in and we mulliganed. Alright, this hand looks fine. We got some fast mana, we got some creatures to attack with. And we managed to even draw an evolution, if we get a chance for that. Although it would mean searching our library, which is dangerous in this matchup. The opponent does have ways of making us search, so never safe. And we managed to, opponent manages to mill an endurance and immediately surgical extraction targeting endurance. Fortunately, we don't have any in our hand, so we don't get free thought seized. Another Strangleroot Geist. So let's see here. What do we do? Wall of Roots first, and then Strangleroot Geist. We can attack with the Geist. Ignoble Hierarch makes the Geist attack as a 3/2, which is big enough to get through the crab. So opponent will just take 3 here, go to 13. So they play Field of Ruin, which is good with the crab. Means that they're able to destroy the Twilight Mire, which is actually really good for the opponent here. Knocks us mostly off of black mana. And, I mean, we do get to go get a swamp here, but even more important, Field of Ruin means that we have to search our library. So that means that they're going to be able to activate any traps they have. And actually our swamp has already been milled. So because we're not able to grab swamp here, our mana is very stifled. We do have a green heavy hand here, but we do have double black and triple black pips in our deck. Okay, so no trap. Very lucky for us. And we know that there's no trap. So using Wall of Roots, we play the Young Wolf, and then okay, we're going to Eldritch Evolution the Geist into a Yawgmoth. Don't think we've played a land yet this turn. Why didn't I attack? Oh, because of the Chord of Calling. And I guess I don't want to leave myself open to a surgical. Let's see what I do next. I just passed the turn. Well, Chord of Calling here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, we can Chord of Calling on their upkeep. Go get Cutthroat. Oh, go get Hapatra. And that actually kills their crabs. That's a cool way to do it. Because they have the double Soul Guide Lantern, we can't combo through normally. So here Hapatra is going to allow us to kill all their crabs. We're going to draw cards for every crab we kill. We'll lose life as well. The life loss is not very relevant in this matchup. The card draw actually is. So we're drawing 6 cards. In a normal matchup, that would be fantastic. In this matchup, it's like giving the opponent a free spell. But we're really, really well set up here. Opponent's going to need to just get an amazing Hideous Laughter into something else. I honestly don't think, like, they only have zero, they have no cards in hand. This is the last card in hand, so I honestly don't see how they could have possibly got through this. But Tasha's Hideous Laughter, so let's see what it does. We're at 36 cards left in the library, and we go down to 20, so it only hit us for 16. Again, that's one of the advantages that the Yawgmoth deck has. Hideous Laughter is not going to hit us for 30 cards. Play land, why not? Play another Geist that attacks. Attack in. Puts them to 3. We did have like the ability to put an extra counter onto the Strangleroot Geist for an extra 1 point of damage, putting them to 2, but I didn't really see the point in that. So here Hapatra is going to put a counter on Wall of Roots, which is going to give us an extra snake. Or just not even bother using it so we can get the extra mana. It doesn't really matter. Either way is good. Feel in a very commanding position here. Opponent has 1 card. It's a Vision of Beyond. Draws 1 card. And that's a win versus Mill. This hand looks fine to me. Turn 1 Bird of Paradise, turn 2 Wall of Roots. We got Chord of Callings to find us whatever. Looks great, so we'll play a Bird of Paradise, pass the turn. Okay, now look at the time. This is game 1. And opponent's clock just went down to 15 minutes and 54 seconds. They just left for 10 minutes of the first game. Don't know what they were doing, if they were double queuing or what, because they had done the initial button presses at the start of the game so that we could look at our starting cards and choose our mulligans. And then maybe like opponent went and finished whatever game they were playing. I don't know. But this is going to come back and bite them. Alright, so here we play Wall of Roots, which opens us up to Chord of Calling for Dryad Arbor. Opponent gets Triome and plays Scalding Tarn. So do we go for the Chord here? Looks like we do. Kind of on the fence about that Chord. Here we go for Geralf's Messenger, which resolves. And then we can attack in with Dryad Arbor if we want, or hold up Chord. It looks like we're going to hold up Chord again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can go get a 2. But that plan is not going to work out because opponent has a Lightning Helix for a Wall of Roots. So that means that we lose out on 2 mana for Chord of Calling next turn. We can go ahead and Chord for 1 in response. Yeah, and it looks like I do. So I go get a Young Wolf here, which makes a lot of sense because then we have Young Wolf plus Messenger with Yawgmoth in hand. So that's still a good position. But opponent passes with all that mana up, and 6 cards in hand, so I'm afraid. I'm afraid that my Yawgmoth will get countered. So I attack in with all of my creatures except for the bird. They have a path, which is unfortunate. They grab the Geralf's Messenger off the board, and they still have 2 mana open, which is enough for a counter spell. So I just pass the turn. Prismatic Ending on Yawgmoth. And passing the turn with 3 mana up. We play Ignoble Hierarch and attack with Dryad Arbor. Kind of mopey. But, you know, it's damage. End of turn, opponent cycles Shark Typhoon, getting a 1/1 flyer. And Engineered Explosives on 1, which is going to get rid of our mana. And knock 2 creatures off the board. Not nice. I believe this is where we are going to cast the Yawgmoth. And they do have the counterspell that they've been broadcasting the entire time. They've been holding it up. And here's a Jace. So yeah, they feel pretty confident at this point. Slam a Jace. It'll be fine. But we actually get a pretty good draw here with Eldritch Evolution, and they have no counter magic up. Now, while we are not able to go get a Yawgmoth here with Evolution, we are able to get something else. So we start with an attack at Jace to get this Shark off the battlefield. I think that if I had attacked them, they probably would have just taken the damage. But attacking Jace, they were interested in blocking. So get that creature out of here, which is important for the next thing we're going to do. Eldritch Evolution, get rid of Bird of Paradise, go get Grist. And then sacrifice Ignoble Hierarch to destroy their Jace. Now, if they still had that 1/1 token on the board, they could kill our Grist with their 1/1 flyer, but because we were able to entice them to block with it, now we get to hold our Planeswalker for a little bit. And that means they're going to have to spend resources on the Grist itself. There's Teferi. So opponent is really starting to pull away at this point. They've got Teferi to start drawing cards every turn, keeping their mana up. Even after they cast big spells. But we still have a Grist. So they are going to have to answer that. Deciding not to cast Eldritch Evolution into obvious counter magic. And Prismatic Ending takes care of the Grist. So this game is coming to a close, but opponent still has to end it. And they have 9 minutes and 30 seconds left on their clock, and this is game 1. So this being a super qualifier, I was 100% interested in shooting for the timeout. So I did not concede here, even though at this point the game was over. I'm going to make the opponent finish it. So we're just going to play our cards. We actually resolve an Eldritch Evolution. Rec Sage to get rid of Rest in Peace. So yeah, this is game 1, so we don't have access to a second Grist. I don't know if I would have brought it in here, but I definitely think that it's reasonable to bring in second Grist if we're looking to have some quality cards and play a long game. Any event, Rest in Peace is out of here. Opponent plays Expressive Iteration. What a card to play when you have access to all that mana. Expressive Iteration into another iteration. Did they both exile Lightning Bolt? Okay, well, they get rid of our creatures, so we cannot attack the Teferi. Go ahead and continue to tick that up. And Bolt Face. Get some damage down there. Alright, Strangleroot Geist. Send that to Teferi so that they aren't able to ultimate with it. Again, I don't really care so much about reducing their life total to 0 at this point. I'm more interested in reducing their clock to 0. Think about that as you will. Attack in with Geist. They block, no problem. And I decided to keep the Blooming Marsh in hand to kind of like bluff that I might have like a Chord of Calling or something. Alright, so they have Shark Typhoon on the board. This is where they're finally going to be able to start finishing the game. Shark Typhoon is going to give them the creatures they need to reduce my life total to 0. So another Expressive Iteration, giving them a 2/2 plus effectively drawing them 2 cards. We get a Young Wolf, so we'll go ahead and cast it, pass the turn. They Rest in Peace, getting them another Shark. And they cast another Shark Typhoon, which gives them a 6/6. So this is actually lethal on board here. And we draw Chord of Calling off top. So there's no way to win here, but like I said, I'm not trying to reduce my opponent's life total to 0. So this Chord of Calling has another value. Now, I'm not going to be doing any kind of tricks here, not that you would be able to tell if I was, because the system we're using here, the replays, it doesn't show when people are passing priority or whatever, it just kind of skips according to this. Or to whatever game actions are made. So here we Chord of Calling, it actually resolves. We go get Bird of Paradise, they don't kill it, and we block Shark. So that gives us an extra turn, and is going to knock, I don't know, maybe another 10 seconds off the opponent's clock. We play land, draw a card, get Yawgmoth. I don't see why I didn't play Yawgmoth there. I should have cast the Yawgmoth. Okay, an opponent ends game 1 at 5 minutes and 42 seconds with a Jeskai control deck. If the opponent had given this Match of Magic the time that it required, might have had a very different result. Alright, we're going to start round 2 here. Again, I don't know how this is going to play out because of the replay software. Let's find out. I did bring in second Grist. Okay, I actually took out Hapatra. That makes sense. I brought in 1 Endurance. Brought in both of the Thoughtseas. Okay, cool. And I took out 3 of the Eldritch Evolutions because we're playing against a Counterspell deck. So Eldritch Evolution is just a terrible card against Counterspell. Hey there, Blind. Thank you. I'm actually streaming the replay now. I did not stream the actual event. I didn't want the distraction. I wanted to see what I could do with just the event itself in front of me. Worked out pretty well. So let's see here. We are in round 4, game 2 right now. Not quite halfway through. This thing was 10 rounds. Alright, let's get into it. One land hand. I guess I'm going to mulligan that. I do. Another one land hand. I'm probably going to mulligan this one too. This one is definitely better than the other one land hand. We could potentially keep it. I could see keeping this. But if opponent has Prismatic Ending for Ignoble Hierarch, we just get totally wrecked. So I actually end up mulliganing this one as well. Hoodie Hoo, thanks for the follow, friend. Alright, what do we... so this is at least a keepable hand. At this point, again, we're not feeling too good about our chances for legitimately winning a match of Magic, but the opponent is at 5 minutes and 30 seconds left on their clock. This is a hand that we can keep. We can play with this hand and try and win the match, even though we don't have a single game to our name. Hey there, Blind. May I ask, why did you pick Yawgmoth Combo over Hammer Time? 2 reasons. First off, Yawgmoth Combo has a good Hammer Time matchup. And secondly, it was the deck that I had rented from Friday. I didn't return the cards, which I normally do, because I thought I might play over the weekend. And, you know, it was like 2 minutes before the Super Qualifier started. I logged into Magic. I had this deck ready to go, so let's play it. This was not a planned event. I did not expect to be playing this. But I'm glad that I did. Alright, so what do we get rid of here out of this hand? We probably get rid of Chord of Calling and maybe Geralf's Messenger because the Endurance is like instant speed. Let's see what Past Me got rid of. Got rid of Land and Endurance. Okay, so I decided to keep the Geralf's Messenger and Young Wolf, and Chord of Calling, which can lead into a combo. Start with a Young Wolf. Opponent plays Hollowed Fountain, and immediately Prismatic Ending the Young Wolf just gets rid of it. So if we had kept the 6, we would have just been crushed. Land, and we managed to drew the Strangleroot Geist. Excellent draw there. So play Geist, attack for 2. Pass turn back. Opponent plays Steam Vents and Wall of Omens, which is going to block the Geist quite effectively. We draw Thoughtseize here, so we have an option between Chord of Calling for Dryad Arbor or Thoughtseize. Looks like I decide to go for Chord of Calling. Okay, they let me have the Dryad Arbor, and they let me untap with it. Very nice of the opponent there. We start out with a Thoughtseize, which they counterspell. So they have some business in hand they want to be keeping. We're able to attack in with 2 creatures, which gets us 1 damage, and opponent is at 3 minutes and 44 seconds left on their clock. So it's looking pretty good from here, just in the sense that their clock is so low. And I mean, they're taking quite a bit of damage, too. They're down to 8 now. partially because of our attacks, but mostly because of their shock lands. Rest in Peace does mean that our Undying creatures are a whole lot worse, but we are able to play a Messenger, which brings them down to 6, and attack them, which gets them down for 1 more point, down to 5. So, you know, it kind of looks like we might actually just legitimately win this game. Now, this is where things turn around, and the opponent shows that we didn't really... It's not going to be that easy. They go ahead and Supreme Verdict and wipe the board, and they're left with 3 cards in hand, 5 lands, and Rest in Peace, and we're left with 1 card in hand and 2 lands. So we do draw Swamp, which allows us to play Geralf's Messenger, putting our opponent down to 3 life, and we have a lethal attacker on the board. Opponent does have Castle Ardenvale to present infinite blockers, but they drew something much better in Solitude, allowing them to get rid of our Geralf's Messenger and have a 3/2 life-linking creature that can start attacking next turn, which will start buffering up their life total. Their life total is at 3. We were almost able to bring a game in there, but Solitude is going to be able to start clocking us. And they still have 2 minutes to end the game with Solitude. They managed to play a 5-mana Teferi, which clears the Spellskite out of the way, and they're able to start attacking in with Solitude. So they have 2 minutes left. We're at 17 life, and they have a 3-power attacker. So this is pretty exciting stuff. We draw Chord of Calling, which we could potentially cast for Dryad Arbor. Unfortunately, we only play 1, and it's already been used. So this Chord of Calling is getting us nothing. Opponent attacks in with Solitude, putting themselves up to 9, and basically out of reach. We're not going to be able to win this game. We're just going to have to try and clock them out. We draw Wall of Roots, which is something we can use to block the Solitude, put it onto the battlefield past the turn. Opponent is drawing continuously with Teferi, and they manage to find another Prismatic Ending, taking the wall out of the way, attacking in with Solitude, getting some more damage in. They have 1 minute left on the clock. They decided to use Field of Ruin to kill one of our lands here, which is an interesting choice. They have so little time left on their clock to take the seconds necessary to use Field of Ruin here, which means they're also going to be searching through their own library. Personally, I disagree with that. And that's going to allow us to Convoke here, which they're going to Flusterstorm, but again, that's taking more time off their clock, and they're at 50 seconds now left. So Solitude comes in, does some damage, Teferi ticks up, we play Zulaport Cutthroat. I decide not to play Thoughtseize because that changes the clock. We're at 8 life, Thoughtseize would put us to 6, which means Solitude would only have to connect twice instead of 3 times. They have another Prismatic Ending, so they're able to continue to connect in with a Solitude. They have 14 seconds left on the clock. Teferi continues to do work. We draw the Spellskite, play Spellskite, and opponent runs out of time. Can you believe it? This match started out with the opponent giving up 10 minutes off their clock. If they had played this game from the start, given it the time it deserved, it would have had a different result, but they didn't, and we managed to win the game based on the chess clock. Not exactly my favorite type of win, but we take those, especially in a tournament like this one. Our opponent mulligans, they show no companion. To my eyes right now, this hand looks great. Turn 1 Young Wolf, turn 2 Khalni Garden, turn 3 Geralf's Messenger, turn 4 Yawgmoth, win the game. Looks like Past Me agrees. So opponent mulligans to 5 cards. Heavy mulligans from the opponent. Oh yeah, I remember this now. I did not know what deck they were playing after game 1. I thought it was a totally different thing. You'll see why pretty soon. So okay, so they start with a Thoughtseize here. Take our best card out of hand. We're going to slam the Young Wolf here. They get planes. I think that they probably drew one of the essential cards this turn. I don't think they would have taken Yawgmoth if they knew that this was going to be their turn 2. I think they probably would have taken, like... How many cards do they get with this? Because I think they get, like, a total of 4 cards. Alright, let's show you what's going to happen here. So, first thing, they evoke Grief, discarding Collective Brutality. And then they ephemerate the Grief. I don't agree with the timing here. I think you're supposed to resolve the first Grief trigger first, but we're tapped out, so I don't think there's any way that we could have actually reasonably punished this. Just like anybody watching, you're going to want to generally resolve this first Grief trigger first, and then cast the Ephemerate. It's just like you have more information that way, so you know that the Ephemerate's going to resolve. Okay, so they take Geralf's Messenger, then they take Geralf's Messenger. Pass back to us. We play Khalni Garden, which is going to allow us to cast the Chord of Calling if we want to. So here comes the Ephemerate. They blink the Grief, and now here's our chance to cast Chord of Calling for Dryad Arbor if we want to. We decide that we'll give the opponent the choice. They can take Eldritch Evolution or Chord of Calling, but whichever card they leave us is going to be very good next turn. Okay, so they take the Chord of Calling. Eldritch Evolution is going to be very good next turn. Okay, so they're going to ephemerate the Grief again, which means Eldritch Evolution is not very good. Not good at all. But it is going to allow them to go ahead and take it. We're going to slam down the Strangleroot Geist, which means we're not going to have any cards left in our hand when the Grief is ephemerated for... Geez, like, what is this, the 4th time? And, okay, they just decide not to ephemerate, so they can actually attack with the Grief. And this way we're racing, but I drew Eldritch Evolution, meaning we get to blink the evolve the Geist into a Yawgmoth. We just attack here. We don't have any reason to actually initiate the combo here. Because opponent has 1 card in hand and they have white mana up, it is possible that they have Path to Exile. So if I just pass the turn, I'm in a good position and I can respond to Path to Exile by drawing 7 cards. Whereas if I start the combo and they Path to Exile the Yawgmoth while my Undying Creature's in the graveyard, I do not get to draw many cards. So a little bit of patience goes a long way. We just go ahead and win the game just by leaving the combo on the board. Good old game of Magic. We had a little bit of a laugh about it while we were talking in Sideboard, which is something that I don't think any of you are going to see. But basically, like, we were just commenting on how it was kind of a ridiculous game of Magic. We had a little bit of punmanship going on, but... yeah, we turned that salt into a bit of a fine seasoning on the game. Don't worry about it. Hey there, Shauna. Alright, so like I said, I didn't actually know what the opponent was playing based on game 1. We saw Ephemerate, we saw Grief, we saw Thoughtseize. So, first thing that, thank you very much. First thing that I thought was that my opponent is playing an Orzhov value deck based on Ephemerate Grief. This is an idea that had come out early after Modern Horizons 2 it was kicked around. But if I had a little bit more knowledge of the current modern metagame, I might have had a better idea of what my opponent was actually playing. Anyone in chat have it figured out? Do you know what our opponent is actually playing? I might have actually spoiled it before we started this match. I can't remember. Probably already told you what they're playing. Alright. So this starting hand looks great. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I did. I did spoil it. Fair enough. Actual elementals? No. Yeah, it's Reanimator. So let's see what cards are in our sideboard here that would help versus Reanimator. What cards are in our sideboard here that would really help in this matchup? If I knew what I was playing against, I would definitely have those. But I didn't, so I don't. And that's going to make this game way more difficult than it should have been. I mean, why not do both, right, Carrion Lich? Alright, so Ignoble Hierarch, and opponent plays Priest of the Fell Rites, and this is where I realize, oh, they're playing Reanimator. Oops. I've made a huge mistake, is what's going through my head at this point. So I play Wall of Roots, and I think this is... No, I go for Essence Warden, Young Wolf here. Young Wolf is a fine creature to sacrifice if I have to. Because, yeah, here comes Archon of Cruelty, so I can discard land, sacrifice Young Wolf. But they ephemerate the Archon of Cruelty, so I have to sacrifice another creature, discard another card. I draw Veil of Summer, which is going to have a small amount of effectiveness, meaning that I'm not going to get hit by this trigger again this turn, which means I have one turn to draw Yawgmoth. But I also don't draw a card because I'm responding to Ephemerate. Okay, so we draw Grist, which is so awkward here because they have Priest of the Fell Rites. So I Grist the Archon, they just bring it right back immediately. Womp womp. Well, play Grist, sacrifice Young Wolf, kill Archon, attack with Hapatra. We get to put a counter onto Priest of the Fell Rites. Oh, actually they block with Priest of the Fell Rites. Ah, I've forgotten about that. Did not make much sense at the time, but it didn't actually matter because obviously they just had plenty of reanimation effects handy. So here comes Persist, brings the Archon back. We lose Grist because I wanted the mana and the Patra, again, to potentially be able to draw Yawgmoth. We only get a Verdant Catacombs this time, so we're going to play it better than discarding it, right? Opponent attacks in with their 5/5. Abilities trigger. We go get Dryad Arbor and sacrifice that. And take our 5 damage going to 5. I think we get Yawgmoth here. Yep. Draw Yawgmoth. Play Yawgmoth. Attack with Hapatra, which allows us to get an extra counter onto the Archon, putting the Archon to a 4 instead of a 5, which means we're now actually going to be able to kill it. I don't think I actually did it now, which doesn't matter. We drew Yawgmoth, so if we had drawn the cards now, we could have potentially played a land. It looks like we are going to do it now. But I think opponent just is totally ready for this. Oh, I remember what happens now. Check this out. Target it one last time. We're at 1 life. And opponent has Malakir Rebirth. So they're able to pay 2 life, which they have plenty of. And when this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped. Or is that tapped under the owner's control? So yeah, all that work. Bring ourselves down to 1 life to kill their creature, and they just bring it right back. And immediately we'll lose the game to that. So we learn our lesson, and now we know what the opponent is playing and can sideboard properly. Give them a little GG. Okay, let's move into the final game of the first half of the tournament. Yeah, only 1 Warden. Alright, let's take a look at our sideboard this time. A little bit better sided for what we're playing against. We have the Thoughtseizes, we have the Endurance. So let's see here. This hand is definitely playable. It's not great, but it's okay. Not a huge fan of Dryad Arbor and Khalni Garden in my Yawgmoth hand, but Khalni Garden is pretty good with Chord of Calling. So is this good enough for us to keep, or does Past Me want something better? Okay, Past Me is deciding this is good enough. Ignoble Hierarch is a turn 1 play, surprise to no one. And they Thoughtseize us, immediately taking our Chord of Calling. We managed to draw Thoughtseize, though, so we're going to be able to take the unmarked grave out of their hand, which means they're not going to be able to put one of their creatures into their graveyard. What was the name of that card? Entomb, right? Is the one that puts any card. In any event, Thoughtseize gets rid of it. Play Dryad Arbor here. I think I might have been a little bit happier with Khalni Garden in that spot. In any event, they take the Yawgmoth, so I might have played the Dryad Arbor here specifically to be looking to get damage. That's probably why I played it this turn. We knew they were going to grief the Yawgmoth, so play the Dryad Arbor, then we can start attacking for 2 at least, or 3 as the case may be. Hey there, Potato. Okay, so yeah, that's why I play the Dryad Arbor there. And actually, I mean, it's working out here according to plan. Dryad Arbor is swinging in for 3 here. So our board is not exactly fantastic, but we're at least getting some progress. Draw another land, unfortunate. We're going to attack in for another 3. Play the land, and we have no companion in this deck, so we just have to pass and do nothing this turn. Fortunately, opponent isn't doing too much better, and we get one of the best draws out of our deck. So I'm going to go ahead and play Yawgmoth in the first main. And we'll swing in for 3, and opponent concedes to that. So, I mean, at this point, we have a really strong position. Opponent goes down to 6 life. We have Yawgmoth on the board, which is going to allow us to draw a huge amount of cards on our turn 6. And opponent just doesn't have anything that's going to win the game on their next turn. So they're going to be able to do whatever they do. It isn't going to kill Yawgmoth. And then we get our turn, and we have Yawgmoth and all of our lands and a bunch of creatures. So, GG. Like I said, we had a little bit of assault during game 1, but opponent and I had some really nice interaction during the sideboard of our games. So we ended up ending the round on pretty good terms. They reveal Lurrus, but at this point we've already faced a couple of Lurrus decks that weren't Hammer Time. So am I going to assume that this is Hammer Time? Of course I am. This hand looks amazing. First turn, Ignoble Hierarch. Second turn, Geralf's Messenger. Although I think that we actually screw up our lands on this play. In any event, this is definitely a keep. So yeah, start with Blooming Marsh, play Ignoble Hierarch. It's all working fine so far. Opponent plays Esper Sentinel, no problem. What do we get? We get Chord of Calling here. Play Overgrown Tomb untapped. And yep, just play Geralf's Messenger. Okay, so this is not the time that we screwed up the land drops. That must have been later. You know, just casual turn 2 Geralf's Messenger. Opponent's attacking with Esper Sentinel here. We're not worried about that at all. They just have 2 mana floating. Hammer Time's scary when they have Sigardizade on the battlefield, but before that hits the battlefield, they're not that scary. Sanctifier on Vec. Sanctifier on Vec is a little bit scary when we just played Geralf's Messenger. This really kind of nullifies what this is trying to do. We got so close. Okay, so I decide to play the Ignoble Hierarch and hold up Chord of Calling here. Probably want to go get Hapatra would be my guess. They play Urza's Saga, they play Springleaf Drum, nothing to worry about yet. They play Stoneforge Mystic, still nothing to worry about. They go get Shadow Spear, still not worried. Play Giver of Ruin, still not worried. And no attacks. Okay, so I'm pretty sure I Chord of Calling for Hapatra here. And then just play Yawgmoth, win the game. Yep. Paulo, thanks for the follow, friend. Okay, so here we play Yawgmoth, just like I was saying. We have Hapatra. Opponent does have Sanctifier on Vex, so the normal combo of Geralf's Messenger plus Young Wolf is not going to work. Also, we don't actually have enough life. Our opponent has more life than us, so this combo, again, in 2 ways, is not going to work. But Hapatra is going to make this totally fine. We're going to do it now since opponent is tapped out. They don't have access to Path to Exile. Sacrifice the Young Wolf, put a counter on Giver of Ruins, which gets the Hapatra working, making a snake. Now we're going to be able to start making snakes. And killing their creatures. So we just pass after getting rid of Giver of Ruins and Esper Sentinel, because at this point I've already shown I can kill all of your creatures except for the Sanctifier. So whatever you have to do that isn't hammer on Sanctifier, I don't care. Okay, there's Hammer. Here's Pure Steel Paladin, so that's a wonderful play. First thing I'm going to do is kill their Ornithopter, which is going to mean they're not going to have enough artifacts to have Metalcraft. They respond to that by making mana. Okay, Pure Steel Paladin with 1 mana available. Now they play Shadow Spear. Now we're going to do the same thing, kill their Pure Steel Paladin. And now they cannot equip. And we should easily be able to win the game from this point because we have Zulaport Cutthroat. So play the Cutthroat. And then we can start comboing with Hapatra and Young Wolf. So at this point here, I'm pretty sure opponent just F6s and lets me go through the entire combo. So I'm just going to hit the play button here, and we're just going to go through it. Because it's a replay, we're not going to see all the triggers and whatever. But basically, I put together the combo, continue to sacrifice Young Wolves to each other over and over, draining 1 life every time. The Sanctifier doesn't care about Young Wolves, or like it doesn't target them because they're not black or red, so they keep coming back. And Cutthroat is going to end the game with their triggers. So this will stop in just a mo. And I mean, look at all those snakes. Spectacular. Let's see here. First, they should have equipped Hammer to Sanctifier if they had, yeah, if they had played the Spear first. So yeah, play the Spear, then play the Paladin. We let that happen. Whatever they equip the Hammer to, we then kill the Paladin, and we have a blocker, so they don't have Trample is the important thing. Because I'm pretty sure they would be out of mana at that point. They wouldn't be able to use the 2 mana to equip. And even so, like, we have snakes. So if they're able to put a big hammer on Sanctifier, we're able to make a couple of snakes, put that in front of the Sanctifier, and hopefully keep our life total above 2. Okay, in any event, we got that one. And like I said, our Hammer Time matchup is pretty good. So I'm generally pretty confident anytime we get paired up with this matchup, which is a place that you really want to be when, like, this is the most played deck in Modern, right? Say it's like 8% of the meta. That's a lot in Modern. So playing a deck that has a good win rate against the best deck seems fine. Let's get into game 2 here. So let's see here. Brought in Fatal Push, brought in Force of Vigor. Took out Spellskite, Strangleroot Geist, and a pair of Geralf's Messengers. I think that the one of Hapatra at this point is stock. There was a period of time where we were trying it out, kind of like testing the waters. Is Hapatra good enough to warrant a slot in this deck? A lot of cards have tried to, like, get that slot in this deck. Hapatra 100% deserves it. I think that if you are not playing one of Hapatra, you're making a mistake on the same level of not playing one of Grist. Alright, so let's see here. This hand looks fine to my eyes today. We could potentially put this one back to try and find a more interactive hand. Because this one is pretty slow. We play Young Wolf, and then what else did this hand do? Nothing. So I'm on the fence about it. Let's see what past Cooper decided to do. Okay, so past me decided that this hand is a keep. Hootie Who says you play 2 Grist, no Rex Sage. Should probably play Rex Sage. You probably have Rex Sage in your sideboard, right? Try switching the second Grist for the Rex Sage. Rex Sage is super, super good right now in the meta. It's really nice to be able to have the option to be able to deal with whatever main deck shenanigans the opponent has. Like, what if they have main deck Pithing Needle and they search it out of their deck with Urza Saga? We can search out Rex Sage with Chord of Calling, blow up the Pithing Needle, still combo out with Yawgmoth. I remember Tom Ross spoke about it briefly in the Discord, said that it's well within rights to put Rex Sage in the main. And then I saw Hoogland playing the deck, and he was playing Rex Sage in the main. So, I mean, yeah, when I see a deck and I like it, I follow suit. And with this deck here, I mean, I'll follow the trends. I play this deck a lot, so I want to know what's good and what's not. And Rex Sage in the main right now, confirmed good. Okay, opponent with turn 1 Esper Sentinel Ornithopter. Not the best start from the opponent, but definitely good. We're going to start with an Overgrown Tomb Young Wolf. Beerweiser, you want to see the deck list? There you go. Okay, Sanctifier on Vec on their turn 2, a good card. Again, like we managed to play through Sanctifier on Vec game 1, we'll do it again this one. But it does definitely slow us down. Not as bad as Dothi Voidwalker, though. Alright, so we just play land, and we hold up Chord of Calling here. They attack. Looks like we decide not to block there. Deciding to use the Young Wolf for a block later, or to feed to Yawgmoth. And in the event, here's a Chord of Calling. So we'll let them draw the card. We're going to get Dryad Arbor, and we drew Force of Vigor. Force of Vigor is one of the reasons why we have a good matchup versus Hammer Time. We're going to be able to slam this down as either a freeze spell at a surprise time, probably by discarding an evolution, or we're going to be able to just cast this for 4 mana at instant speed and 2 for 1. So drawing the Force of Vigor gives me a huge amount of confidence in this game. We slam the Yawgmoth and pass the turn back. Okay, opponent plays Pithing Needle. I decide to respond, sacrificing the Young Wolf to kill their Sentinel, drawing a card, get Reclamation Sage. Back to pack, amazing draws. I'm going to sacrifice the Dryad Arbor to reset the Wolf, getting an extra draw, and then I'm going to put a counter onto the Ornithopter, getting another draw. So we get a bunch of draws here. We do lose out on Dryad Arbor, a blocker, and a land source, but our Young Wolf can now trade with a Sanctifier on Vec. They go and get Shadow Spear. Oh, yeah. This is going to be nice. This game was a good one. Okay, so we Young Wolf, we trade with one of their Sanctifiers, get it out of the way. Sanctifier and Yawgmoth, they don't interact at all, ever. They barely even see each other. They don't acknowledge each other. Yeah. So opponent plays another Ornithopter here, and we draw another Yawgmoth, but, alright, so we play land, and play Rec Sage, which is going to get rid of Pithing Needle. And attack for 2. Pass the turn back. We have Rec Sage, which can block Sanctifier on Vec. So they're going to play Shadow Spear and equip the Sanctifier and attack with a 3/3 Trample Lifelinker. And this is my where I set up our trap. So we block the Sanctifier with the Rec Sage. And then we cast Force of Vigor, targeting the Urza's Saga and the Shadow Spear, turning their Sanctifier into a 2/2, which trades with our Reclamation Sage. Play of the day, I don't know, but it was definitely a good one. Alright, so we're coming up to the end of this game at this point. I think there's a couple more turns left in it. I don't think the opponent concedes early, but we just have like an incredible position here. Opponent takes some time to think about their play. How are they going to try and get back into this game? Here's a Stoneforge Mystic. Goes and gets Hammer, and they pass the turn back. So we're going to go ahead and put a counter onto the other Ornithopter. Oh, and this is where I do the proliferate thing. I love it. Okay, so I think we play Strangleroot Geist. Why don't we just actually see what we do here as I talk about it. So we play Strangleroot Geist. Sacrifice Geist, target Stoneforge Mystic, put a counter on it, and then we proliferate. So all the -1/-1 counters on the opponents go to 2, killing all their creatures, and my creatures get an extra +1/+1 counter. So we're going to do more than lethal here, and that's going to finish the game and match. Opponent gives the GGs, and I think before I'm able to finish the proliferate, opponent scoops him up. And that's hammer time. So we see another Lurrus. We assume it's hammer time. Cannot keep this hand. No lands. Easy mull. We find a 1-land hand here. What did we bottom? Well, whatever. It's difficult to go back here, so we're just going to have to keep moving forward. So this is the 6 that we keep here, assuming that it's hammer time, but we are quickly disabused of that notion when they play a Blood Crypt. So Polluted Delta Blood Crypt leads us to believe that it is Grixis. They Inquisition of Kozilek the Chord of Calling, and we get our turn. Just drawing a Twilight Mire. So we'll play the Verdant Catacombs here, a land they knew about. Although I'm a little bit... I'm not quite sure if that was the right play, because I might want to keep the Verdant Catacombs in my hand to go get Dryad Arbor later. So it might have been better just to play, like, Swamp that turn. I think it would have been better to just play Swamp. And then we could play Yavimaya second turn and Wall of Roots, and even if we drew Geist, we would still have double green. So here's another Inquisition. What do they take with this one? They take the Eldritch Evolution. So they take both of our search cards. We go get Overgrown Tomb and start our turn 2. We play Swamp and Wall of Roots. And we have Geralf's Messenger ready to go. Okay, I fortunately did play my lands correctly this time. And we have 3 mana for Geralf's Messenger. But we also have 3 cards in the graveyard. And remember how earlier I was talking about how I should have kept the Verdant Catacombs in hand in case I wanted to fetch for a Dryad Arbor later? Max punished. So Drown in the Loch says that it counters a spell with mana value less than or equal to the number of cards in the controller's graveyard. If we had not played the Verdant Catacombs, it would have been only 2 cards in our graveyard, and Geralf's Messenger would have resolved. They have Unholy Heat, get rid of Wall of Roots. And Ragavan comes down with haste, so they're able to get some value out of it. They actually get the Spellskite off the top of our deck and still have a land drop to play. So with the treasure and their land drop, they're actually able to play our Spellskite, which is a huge problem, obviously. It means that our Yawgmoth is not going to be able to easily kill their Ragavan. And now that I have the Yawgmoth, I really wish I had Verdant Catacombs to go get Dryad Arbor. So a combination of small errors has led to this position, and they've been incredibly small, almost imperceptible errors that you wouldn't really know about unless you're very familiar with the deck. It looked like I was just playing lands, fetching lands. You know, like, go get tapped Overgrown Tomb with your Verdant Catacomb turn 1. Yeah, what's wrong with that? Nothing. Actually, there was something wrong with that. But the more you learn about Magic and the more comfortable you become with the deck that you choose to pilot, the more you're going to see those small interactions that you would not have seen previously. Alright, here's Strangleroot Geist. Attacks in for 2. No blocks, they take 2, and we leave the Cradle in hand so they don't have green mana to cast our spells. I don't know if we end up getting punished for that particular choice. But this one here is pretty awkward. With the Undying trigger on the stack, they Snapcaster Mage, target an Unholy Heat, and they're going to be able to kill the Yawgmoth before I'm able to kill their Spellskite. I was going to do some funky stuff there with Proliferate, make the Spellskite an O2, and then continue to punish their Spellskite. But opponent had some pretty nice answers, and it looks like this game is going to be a loss. So let's put down Hapatra, which is going to be on blocking duty, and pass back. They have Colligan's Command, basically ending the game with that spell. We do still have a high life total, and opponent has a low time on clock. So I think we play this one out to the end, which is not going to take very long. So they get our Grist here, which is going to help them end the game. And there's the Lightning Bolt that ends it. So that puts us to 4, and then they have 5 to attack with. And the -1 makes it exactly 4. But Magic doesn't work that way. Okay, so that's the end of Game 1 versus Grixis Shadow. But notice the opponent's clock here. They have 15 minutes and 30 seconds left after 1 game. If we go to 3 games, which we do, time is going to be a problem. Alright, so let's see here. This is our starting hand. We decide to keep it. Hand looks okay. We're on the play, so starting at a 2-drop isn't the absolute worst. I don't think I would have kept this hand on the draw, though. Oh, there are so many spoilers today. I mean, the title is a spoiler in itself. We just got to get the right amount of anticipation going. Alright, so we play Strangleroot Geist here, and we are not going to attack with that Geist. That's on blocking duty. We don't want to let the opponent's Ragavan do whatever that it wants. Little Bow Sleep, thanks for the follow, friend. Cool handle. Alright, so opponent plays land and just passes the turn. Great. We're satisfied with that. So we play another land. Once again, we have our land set up nicely to be able to play turn 3 Geralf's Messenger. We have no cards in the graveyard this time, so Drown in the Loch is not going to work at all. We'll continue to leave the Strangleroot Geist back as a blocker, and opponent will actually gust the Aethergeist back to our library. So here I make a small mistake. I forgot what was going to happen in the opponent's turn here, but I believe I put this Geist on the bottom. I should have put it on top so that the Ragavan would take it. I guess it doesn't really matter, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, I do put it on the bottom. I'm pretty sure I should have put that on top for the Ragavan to take. So let's see if we get punished here. Do they reveal Grist? No, this was just a land, was it? Yeah, it was just forest. Okay, so not punished. They do get treasure, but they don't get card advantage. Inquisition, we let them take the endurance here. And we draw a Young Wolf, which is a fine card. So attack in with Geralf's Messenger, do some damage. We play the Rec Sage and actually just get rid of the treasure. And then play Young Wolf. Rec Sage wasn't getting too much value there. I just kept it because the opponent could absolutely have like some lanterns or something. So being able to have a Rec Sage to get rid of a lantern and be able to do our combo seems fine. Yeah, I think that this is probably better than like a Ignoble Hierarch or Bird of Paradise, for example. So they reveal Unholy Heat, they reveal Spell Bomb, which means they're going to be able to kill one of our Undying creatures. I block Ragavan with Rex Sage there. I could have blocked with Young Wolf, but they had Polluted Delta available here, which means they would have been able to draw a card with a Spell Bomb. I didn't want to give them that kind of value play. So now the land is tapped, and if they want a Spell Bomb, they're not going to be able to draw a card with it. So yeah, they Spell Bomb away the Messenger, but they do not get the card advantage. We draw Grist. Wonderful, wonderful draw. One of the best possible draws there. We have Verdant Catacomb ready to go get Dryad Arbor if we haven't already lost it already. And opponent's already at 7 life. So end of the opponent's turn, we fetch with Verdant Catacomb. Oh, wow, this was such an incredible play from the opponent. I just absolutely did not see this coming. And opponent played this wonderfully. So we fetch Verdant Catacombs because I want to go get Dryad Arbor so that we can start clocking the opponent and finish this game. In response, they play Snapcaster for Aether Gust on Grist. What a play. If I had the choice here, I would absolutely can I just not fetch with my Verdant Catacomb? Just leave my Grist on top, please. That's not an option. So we lose the Grist. Well played, opponent. So yeah, that was a absolutely fantastic play, and with the first game ending the way it did, and with the opponent still having plenty of time to finish this game on the clock, I was wondering, is this where the opponent stabilizes? Do they turn around here and actually win this game? In any event, we keep the pressure on. They actually block Young Wolf here, which I was surprised by. We play another Young Wolf. Pass the turn back to them. They pass. Okay, play a land. They do not pass. What do they got? What do they got? Put Lurrus to hand and pass back. Makes sense. We draw Urborg, so we're just drawing lands off the top here. We attack in with all of our creatures. I think this is another Snapcaster. It is. Another Snapcaster with Unholy Heat. So they can Unholy Heat one of the Young Wolves. Get it out of here forever. Okay, so they're going to block the 2. And Unholy Heat the other one. So they're only going to take 2, go to 2 here. And they have Lurrus in hand. So I decided to keep the Urborg in hand to kind of bluff. Oh, I could have Chord of Calling here. You better not do anything. So here they play a Lurrus. Play a Ragavan. And they got blockers. And, I mean, Lurrus is really good at gaining life, but we draw Chord of Calling, which is the perfect draw. And decide to just immediately cast it because the opponent cannot counter this with what's name. Drown the Lock. So we get Yawgmoth. And pass the turn back. Yawgmoth is going to be able to kill their Lurrus. But even if they bring Snapcaster back, they don't have a removal spell for the Yawgmoth in their graveyard. So they attack. Looks like I kill the Ragavan. Drawing a Yawgmoth. And they have Drown in the Loch to kill Yawgmoth. So at this point, I'm going to want to kill their Lurrus. Yeah, I think Chord for Messenger would have just been the far better play. I don't understand why I didn't do it. They're at 2 life, just Chord for Messenger and end the game. I'm not sure what I was trying to play around in order to do that. It seemed pretty cut and dry, just go get Messenger, win game. In any event, I have Veil of Summer here. Lucky draw in order to protect the Yawgmoth. And Yawgmoth is going to be able to end the game in combat. So even though I made some suspect decisions on that game, we managed to close it out, and opponent has 5 minutes and 40 seconds left on their clock. I mean, yeah, draw Veil of Summer there was pretty good. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it looks like we got a lot of comments there, like, hey, just get the Messenger. Messenger, come on. What's wrong with you? Just play the Messenger there. Yeah, I should have just played the Messenger there, taken the 2. They didn't have any way to, like, instantly gain life, and that would have just been GG. But this line got that Wicked Veil play, so not punished. All right, let's move on to game 3, final game of this match. All right, so our opponent begins the game with 7. This hand looks fine to my eyes. I think we're going to keep that, and we do. So opponent's going to start with an Inquisition and take our Messenger. We're going to start with a Verdant Catacombs for an Overgrown Tomb and play an Essence Warden. Our only lands were Verdant Catacombs, so definitely makes sense that we're going to want to use one there. Opponent plays land and passes. They're playing pretty quickly at this point, which makes a lot of sense. They don't have a lot of time on their clock. I think, yeah, okay, so they were holding up 2 mana, and I decided not to cast the Strangleroot Geist into the Drown in the Loch. So we just did nothing with our turn 2 because I thought that they were going to counter our spell. And instead, this plays into Inquisition, or Snapcaster Inquisition. So they're going to be able to pull any card out of our hand here. We could have used Endurance to get rid of their Inquisition in response, but that would have been card negative. Okay, so here we get to play Khalni Garden, gain a life, play Strangleroot Geist, gain a life, and attack in for only 2. Looks like we're leaving the Essence Warden back here. We could have attacked with the Essence Warden, but with the opponent having such a low clock, I actually put quite a bit of value on the Essence Warden to gain us life. Not so much for the triggers that the opponent's going to be clicking through. I assume that they've yielded to the Essence Warden, but the value that I get from gaining maybe, 5 or 6 or 10 life in this game means that the opponent probably won't be able to kill us with their clock. Okay, so opponent uses Expressive Iteration, fetches a land. They have a Dragon Rage Channeler to put on the battlefield. We gain a life with Essence Warden. Thank you. And they have a 1/1 blocker, but they do have 3 card types in the graveyard here. So it'd be very easy for them to turn on Delirium. We draw a Young Wolf, play Verdant Catacombs, and go ahead and throw the wolf immediately onto the battlefield. We do have Endurance to be able to play at instant speed here, but in order to do that, I have to crack the Verdant Catacombs. So let's see if I get punished at some point for my timing on this. Nope. I decide not to crack the Catacombs. I do not take down Endurance. We just go ahead and move on to our turn, which is going to involve attacking with everything except for the plant. If they want to trade Dragon Rage Channeler for Essence Warden, I'm fine with that. Ooh, Kozilek's Return. That's a card. Okay, so yeah, that wipes the board here. But it actually doesn't kill Dragon Rage Channeler, because similar to how, Lightning Bolt doesn't necessarily kill Tarmogoyf. The damage goes onto the Channeler. Kozilek's Return goes to the graveyard, and then before state-based action happens to check the damage on Dragon Rage Channeler, Dragon Rage Channeler is already a 3/3. So this is going to kill all of our creatures, it does not kill theirs, and our Young Wolf undies. Okay, and then this is where I cast Endurance, which wipes the opponent's graveyard, but in response they cast Unholy Heat to kill the Endurance while they still have the card types in the graveyard, but we get rid of their card types, which gets rid of Darcy. So we're left with a Young Wolf, and they're left with a lot of cards in hand and not much time left on the clock. This will be the last match that I mention the clock in this event. We're not going to have any more of those kind of matches. Alright, so we attack in. Instead of playing Yawgmoth, opponent has obvious counter magic is obvious. So not interested in putting a Yawgmoth into that. Instead, I'll just play Wall of Roots and pass the turn back. Opponent does have cards they're willing to play, though. They have Terminate for the Young Wolf, getting rid of our 2/2. Opponent just passes it right back to us. Not wanting to use much time off their clock, we draw Chord of Calling, and I believe I'm just going to pass the turn immediately back to them with that draw. So opponent takes their turn back without making a play and casts Thoughtseize, so we will respond with Chord of Calling. We do have 8 cards in our graveyard, though, so our Chord of Calling can be countered here by Drown in the Loch. And their Thoughtseize resolves, almost certainly taking the Yawgmoth, and it's back to our turn again. So we'll attack for 1 with Dryad Arbor, putting them to 3. And then I think we play Hapatra here. Yep, we're leaving the Peatland in play because we actually want the mana. We've had several opportunities now to use the Wall of Roots to draw a card with the Peatland, but I want to have access to more mana so that we can cast those Chord of Callings for relevant cards. Whew, okay, almost done. Opponent has 2 minutes left. They cast Engineered Explosives on 2, which is going to kill both Hapatra and Wall of Roots. They activate it. I'm pretty sure they know about the Reclamation Sage, so they go ahead and activate it immediately. At this point, I'm more interested in activating that Peatland, so I'll attack with Dryad Arbor. Probably should have activated the Peatlands first, but I decided to actually just play the Reclamation Sage this turn instead. No value out of it, just a 2/1 creature, but it is a lethal threat. Opponent plays Snapcaster Mage for Terminate. They have Terminate for the Reclamation Sage, just leaving our Dryad Arbor. They don't actually have to block the Dryad Arbor this turn if they don't want to. Okay, I think we attack first. Yeah, we don't want to show them what we have. They choose not to block, go to 1. So we have 2 lethal threats with the Young Wolf here. They don't have counter magic up. Heading back to the opponent's turn, they have 4 cards in hand. To our none, they have 1 minute left with 1 life. And they managed to Aether Gust our Young Wolf. So we put Young Wolf back to the bottom. They have Ragavan come down. just casting it as a normal creature. And Expressive Iteration, so they have 2 blockers for Dryad Arbor and Expressive Iteration to go ahead and get them some business. They reveal the Seal of Removal. I don't remember that card, so I don't think they had mana to play it. Interesting that they only left the Yavimaya, the Ragavan back. I understand that they had to do damage to us, but if we drew Geist here, yeah, there's none in our sideboard, so there's 4 in the deck. And we actually haven't hit any yet, so there was 4 in the deck ready to be flipped off the top. That would have won the game there, but we didn't get it. So let's move on. Attack, obviously, we want to trade with the Ragavan here. If we leave the Dryad Arbor back, then they're going to have the opportunity to find a removal spell for our Dryad Arbor and start attacking with the Ragavan. So it was very important to attack here and get the Ragavan off the board. Decide to leave Yavimaya in my hand as a bluff, although really it isn't much of one. Twilight Mire, we play that. Pass the turn back. Opponent attacks in with Snapcaster Mage. They have 4 cards in hand and 30 seconds left in the clock, and 1 life. They decide not to get Lurrus. They're holding up mana. We just get land. Pass the turn back. Opponent has 17 seconds left on the clock. They play Mishra's Bauble. Target us. 10 seconds left on the clock. Attack with Snapcaster Mage, putting us to 10 life. And it looks pretty out of reach at this point. We get Grist. We're going to want to immediately cast that. That resolves, and I say that that is the final nail in the coffin. Even if you thought that opponent was going to get there, maybe with 6 seconds left on the clock, Grist seals the deal. And that finishes the game. I think that we win this game with the Grist, even if we continued playing, but maybe not. Like, opponent had a ton of resources, and we had nothing. So maybe with infinite time, opponent manages to win this game. But this is MTGO, and the chess clock is part of the game. So we win this one. Ekros. Now, Ekros was actually streaming this event. I was hopping in onto his Twitch feed in between all of the rounds. So I knew what Ekros was playing. He was playing Hammer Time. Ekros did not know what I was playing, although it was revealed very quickly. We're both pretty sharp, so it doesn't take too long for anyone to understand what deck anyone is playing. Okay, let's dive into this one. This is a really exciting match. I mean, we had a lot of exciting matches today in Magic, but this matchup in particular was really, really cool. Hammer is a good matchup. Yes, it is. But I want you to see what happens and why you should never get overconfident about this matchup. Now, we do keep an interesting hand here. Again, I knew the opponent was on Hammer Time, so I knew they weren't going to interact with our mana dorks. And if we drew a land off the top of the deck, this hand is insane. All right, so we start with Ignoble Hierarch and pass back. Opponent plays Springleaf Drum. Okay, you know, whatever, no big deal. Ornithopter. This is where I start to get worried. Sigarda's Aid. Full panic. Play Wall of Roots. Play Bird of Paradise. Pass turn. Bird of Paradise is now a blocker. Wait for Yawgmoth Nexus to attack. We block with Bird of Paradise. This was a necessary block. We were dead if we did not block here. And that takes away a land. So we did not draw land, and the opponent took away our Bird of Paradise. So now we only have 3 mana instead of 4 or 5. And that's really important here. It means we're not playing our Yawgmoth. We miss land again. So, like, that's where we really needed to hit. We missed twice. We're on turn 3 here. And we still managed to slam a Yawgmoth here because of the Eldritch Evolution, but we lost the Wall of Roots in order to do it, which means we only have a single critter we're able to sacrifice, which means if they have 2 hammers, we're dead. So we pass back. They play Stoneforge Mystic. That gets them second hammer. We didn't know about the first hammer in hand, but we assumed, because the attack with the Inkmoth Nexus there, with the Sigarda's Aid and the land open, I was pretty sure they had a hammer in hand previously, and that's the second hammer from the Stoneforge Mystic. So I am pretty confident that we are going to die here. I mean, past me. I mean, obviously I know what's happening. But I saw this Ornithopter coming in for the attack, and I thought, we're just dead here. There's nothing we can do. If they have the second hammer, they have it, and they do. So that's lethal damage. On turn 3, on the draw. So, I mean, like, we got 3 turns of magic, which is a lot, but opponent was actually able to win the game on their third turn, which is pretty spectacular, and one of the reasons why Hammer Time is such a good deck and so scary. This is a terrible matchup for Hammer Time, and they just crushed us game 1. Okay, so yeah, there you have it, game 1 versus Ekros, and you get to see the true power of Hammer Time. No Urza's Saga in sight. Not a single one. You don't need it. Don't get me wrong, it's an incredible card. Of course you want it in the deck, but it's not necessary. Deck was good before it. It'll be good after it if it gets banned. Alright, so we're heading into game 2, which means that I've got a ton of sideboarding I was able to do. I actually ended up bringing in the Thoughtseizes for this matchup. This was something I decided to try for the play, and I was going to switch it up on the draw. I was going to, I think I'd bring in Endurance on the draw, so that we have an extra creature that can block a flyer, and it also is good versus Lurrus. And I think in general, I just wouldn't bother with the Thoughtseize at all. Just bring in the Endurance next time. And yeah, don't care about the Thoughtseize if we're on the play or not. But I think that it was a fine option to be able to, turn 1, take the Sigarda's Aid out of their hand. Seems pretty good. In any event, that was the idea behind the sideboarding, but pretty sure I do not have a turn 1 Thoughtseize here. So yeah, this is a keep, although the mana is incredibly awkward. Big Lefty, do you think Saga gets banned? Do you think it should? No. I don't think it should be banned right now, and I think that we need at least 2 months of data before we can reasonably make any calls on any of the modern cards. In Pauper, it's clear that Chatterstorm should be gone, but in Modern, I think that there's so much interplay between the decks that I think that the format is healthy and fine and very enjoyable. I would be very happy to continue playing this format as is for another 2 months. Okay, so opponent mulligans once, and we're on the play, so we're going to start with Yavimaya into Bird of Paradise. Pass the turn back. And opponent starts with Plains and nothing, which is interesting. So that really kind of makes me wonder about what's in their hand. Plains and nothing is very suspect for Hammer Time. I think that this is one of the spots where I start to make errors with my land drops. I mean, I've been making some small errors the entire day. Alright, so here's the Strangleroot Geist, and I think... Are we supposed to play Dryad Arbor here? Alright, in any event, let's see what I do. So we attack with Geist. I'm like second guessing all of my land drops throughout this entire series. And play Dryad Arbor. Opponent plays Urza's Saga. Taps for green mana, because why not? And plays Stoneforge Mystic. Now this here really throws me for a loop. Did you notice that they did not reveal Lurrus? I didn't notice that. Not when I was first playing. They search their library for an equipment card and reveal Kaldra Complete, aka Kaldra Complete. How about that? That is actually really scary. It's a pretty good clock and it's difficult to kill. We only have a couple of answers to it. But it costs a lot of mana, so if they want to get that thing onto the battlefield, they need a Stoneforge Mystic. So we go ahead and take care of that problem for them. I think I'm going to draw some extra cards here, if I recall correctly. So yeah, I reset the Geist, losing the Dryad Arbor, which is going to get me some extra card draws. And then I can attack in with a 3-2 without worrying about them putting a 5-5 haste indestructible stupid wall in the way. They pass. Looks like they just play Yawgmoth Nexus and pass here. Yes, indeed. So we just go ahead and take our turn. Khalni Garden is interesting. That gets us an extra creature. But I think I was supposed to play Blooming Marsh here so that I could play Geist and just start clocking. So I think that was one of my land mistakes that I made today. Or yesterday, sorry. I think that, honestly, like if there was any main lesson for me to be taking from the entire event that went on Sunday, is I need to pay more attention to my lands. Okay, so they decide to path the Yawgmoth in response to Eldritch Evolution, which was basically going to win us the game on the spot if they did not have the path there. So that allows them to continue playing the game. I decide that I am going to draw some cards in response, though. So reset the Geist, sacrifice the Geist, draw 2 cards. We had a Fatal Push, which is a nice way to answer whatever they have. And then instead of going to get the Messenger to win the game, we go get Reclamation Sage to remove the Urza's Saga. So we don't win the game on the spot, but opponent is in a very difficult position. We have a wide board, full hand, bunch of lands. Opponent has a lot of cards in hand, but that's all. Alright, so they play another Mystic, which is going to get them Hammer and allow them to play Complete, except for the Fatal Push in our hand. So we're going to slam down a couple of Geists to race, and then we're actually going to attack, because I want to see if they're going to block. It should be fairly obvious that they cannot block, but I wanted to see if they would, because then I could save the push. They don't, so I have to use the push on the Stoneforge Mystic, and that ends the game. Opponent just doesn't have the resources to come back into this one, and that puts us at 1-1. Lancer999, thanks for the follow, friend. Big Lefty says, I don't think Bauble will get banned. It would almost assuredly take away Delirium cards because it would make them a lot less reliable and a lot of decks that would use Bauble. Yeah, like, I can definitely see that Bauble is an important card in those type of decks, but Faithless Looting was an incredibly important card in several graveyard decks, and they did away with that one. So just because a card is important in any kind of strategy doesn't mean that it's safe. While personally I think that Mishra's Bauble is kind of like a staple of the format, again, that doesn't make a card safe either because Deathrite Shaman was a staple of the format before it was banned. So I think that, like, out of the many cards in Modern, Mishra's Bauble is one of the cards that's on the block, but I don't think it's going to go. Not yet. All right. So I told you this was an exciting match of Magic. This game against Ekros here, game 3 of this match, is incredible. I'm really hyped to bring this one to you. All right, so we are both at this point, I think. So this is round 8. So we're both 6-1 at this point, and we're both super live for top 8. Match 3, or sorry, game 3 of the match, and this is our hand. So we got Young Wolf turn 1, we got Hapatra, we can Chord of Calling for a Yawgmoth, and we got Force of Vigor. This hand is incredible. All right, so let's keep this hand. I think that future me, or present me, I guess, can easily say that past me kept this hand. It looks super good. And opponent keeps a 6. So they start with planes and pass. So that's pretty good for us if they're not immediately playing something scary. I start with Young Wolf here off Yavimaya, and I'm not sure about that start. I think I probably should have started with Overgrown Tomb as the first land. Just so that we had access to black mana, and we could potentially be putting ourselves towards triple black on turn 3. A small thing, but again, like I was saying, like one of the consistent things I saw with this entire event is that my land drops were a little bit loose, so more and more I'm looking at that as the event goes on. Opponent plays Inkmoth Nexus and Stoneforge Mystic, and goes and gets the scary equipment, not the hammer, the other one, Caldra Compleat. And that is incredibly scary because Force of Vigor does not answer it. I kept this hand very confident that I was going to be able to deal with almost anything the opponent put forward, and they put forward this thing again. While personally I don't agree with the giant equipment being in Hammer Time decks, it served Ekros incredibly well in this matchup and through the event, so I do think that it is worth at least looking at and some discussion. Personally, I think like Lurrus is just too much value to ever put away, but the Caldra Compleat was incredible, and I think that like it could catch a lot of people off guard. All right, let's keep going with this game here. So we play the Twilight Mire, which is a really nice draw, being able to turn the Yavimaya into black here. So feeling much better about playing the Yavimaya when we get the Twilight Mire here. It means that turn 3 Messenger should be easy, if that is ever an option. We're going to play the Hapatra and pass back. So quite a bit of time is going to be coming off over the next little while. We have a lot of time on our clocks, both of us, and the match of Magic has really come down to these last points in time. So we're both really like thinking hard about all of our plays. Opponent wants to attack in for 5. I'm fine with that. I could block with the Young Wolf. Young Wolf would die and come back. It would not be exiled. But I decide to just take the 5. I want to keep a healthy Young Wolf and be able to sacrifice that for the Hapatra to start working. Okay, we get another Twilight Mire. I play that. Play Essence Warden, pass turn. We have Force of Vigor if we need it, if they like somehow put a hammer onto the Germ. Opponent attacks, we're just going to take the damage again. We'll go to 10. Plays land and passes. So really, like, this is basically the opponent's entire game plan. If they had continued to play more stuff, this might have been different. I think they're pretty flooded. 4 lands. I don't know exactly what's in their hand, but I'm pretty sure they have more lands in hand. So they're definitely giving us a chance where if they continue to apply pressure with the germ, like in addition to the germ, then, well, this might have went in a different direction. Why didn't we attack with Hapatra? Good question. We cannot go back, so I'm not able to answer that right now. Slam down an Overgrown Tomb, which gives us 7 for Chord of Calling, so X is 4, which gets us Yawgmoth. We'll pass. Okay, so this is where I decide to respond, because opponent has tapped low. They only have 1 point of interaction left. So we're going to cast Chord of Calling here. And this is going to put the opponent under an incredible amount of pressure. Let's do a little thing here and look at the clock. I don't remember how long this took, but I'm pretty sure it took a while. Okay, so we're down to 15:29 now. And look at that, we're already down to... That was like 30 seconds in the blink of an eye. And Path to Exile. Okay, so opponent decides to Path to Exile the Hapatra, which they had to do at this point. It was incredibly important they did this. If they had allowed the Yawgmoth to resolve, I would pass the turn. I wasn't going to start the interaction, so opponent wasn't going to be able to path. If they had pathed after Yawgmoth hit the board, then I get to start my combo and I kill everything. They eventually take our Yawgmoth or her Hapatra, whatever they target with path, they eventually take it, sure, but they lose their board. And, I mean, nobody wants that. So opponent was very smart, and immediately Path to Exile the Hapatra. Good play. So we get land, and we still go get Yawgmoth. Gain a life, puts us up to 9. Construct comes in, gain a life, puts us up to 10. Still feeling pretty good, actually. We have another Chord of Calling. We have an Essence Warden, so Chord of Calling to go get Geralf's Messenger can still win this game, as long as we can survive. Pure Steel Paladin comes down. Okay, so this is where things get really wild. Pure Steel Paladin comes down. They have Colossus Hammer, Construct, Cauldron Compleat, and Inkmoth Nexus. We could potentially sacrifice our board to kill the Pure Steel Paladin here, but we choose not to because we have Force of Vigor. So Essence Warden trigger goes onto the stack. This trigger here was super important, by the way. If this trigger did not go on the stack, opponent was going to be able to immediately equip their hammer to the germ. Because this trigger went on the stack, we actually had the opportunity to kill Pure Steel Paladin before they were able to equip. But again, we had the Force of Vigor, so we choose not to. And this is where Ekros starts to get very excited and very concerned, because it either means that he has won the game and the match, or I'm about to cast Force of Vigor. It's one of those two things. Stoneforge Mystic, go get another hammer. I have Essence Warden to gain a life. They play hammer, they draw a card. Equip hammer to Stoneforge Mystic, attacks. And this is where we Force of Vigor, get rid of the hammers. And then block the construct. We take 6, go to 6. And here we can just Chord of Calling, go get the messenger, and opponent concedes. Ekros understands how the combo works, so did not make us go through it. There we go. GG's. And that was probably like my favorite game out of the entire tournament. Lots of back and forth, very exciting with the Cauldra, how it very nearly stole the game from us. The path to exile on the Hapatra, like Ekros didn't know if that was the right play, but went ahead and made it anyways, and it was 100% the right play. We talked about it later. We got another Lurrus deck. This we're on the play. This hand is very land heavy, but we get to start Khalni Garden into Twilight Mire. I think we can keep this. Let's see if Past Me agrees. Yeah, we do keep this one. Start with Khalni Garden. Bloodstained Mire to Sacred Foundry plays Ragavan. We play Geist. Oh, we play Wall of Roots. Okay. It sets up for more mana in subsequent turns, so I like that. But Prismatic Ending makes short work of it. It looks like I am going to Chord of Calling here for a Dryad Arbor, so get some use out of that Wall of Roots anyway. And this allows us to block the Ragavan. So definitely happy with that. And here I play Swamp. Not terribly happy with that, but it's not too bad. Attack with Strangleroot Geist. Yeah, I think the Swamp there was fine. Like, the other lands weren't going to be any better there. So we get a Chord of Calling. We do decide to attack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that that was a bit of a mistake. Maybe I'm looking to like get Hapatra or something, but I think like on main phase, Chord of Calling for another Strangleroot Geist, attack for 4 might have been a good play. And I don't even cast the Chord of Calling there. Not too sure what I was, what my plan was there. Alright, so we're going to play a land. Attack with Strangleroot Geist. No attacks. Full of surprises. Oh, this is so I can go get Yawgmoth, of course. That's why I didn't attack. Gotta get Yawgmoth. Plays Yawgmoth, pass turn. Now we can play... See, this is another small mistake. I think I should have played Reclamation Sage first. Before I played Hapatra. Attack with both of our creatures. Kill the opponent's creature. We get in for damage. Yep, okay, so not punished. The reason I was thinking I should have just played the Rec Sage there was because that would get us an extra way to sacrifice and start making snakes. So if they had interacted when we sacrificed our first creature to kill their Dragon Rage Channeler, we would be able to reset things and continue to get advantage. Whereas right now we're actually a little bit weak to interaction. So here they have Lightning Bolt for Hapatra. If we had extra Reclamation Sage, we would have more ways to draw cards here. So let's see here. I start by sacrificing Snake to put a counter onto Hapatra, and they have interaction for that. Colligan's Command, making me discard the Reclamation Sage and 2 damage to Hapatra. So I think I'm going to end up drawing a card with Peatland to keep the Sage, or end up losing whatever card is worse. Yeah, so I lose the Blooming Marsh. But before that happens, I'm going to get some more value out of my cards. So put a counter on Hapatra, get a snake, draw a card, Geist comes back, reset Geist, sacrifice Hapatra, so many. Yeah, like this is able to go on for as long as I want it to, so I can fill up my hand, basically. I can draw as many cards as I want, but it's going to cost 1 point of life each time. And then the last iteration, I get rid of Hapatra, because it's going to die anyways, to the Colligan's command. Yeah. And we have a full grip. We still have Yawgmoth on the board and Geist, and we're starting our turn. And the opponent's tapped out. Yeah, this game is over. Just go ahead and play Geralf's Messenger and attack. And that's the game. Okay. Let's move on to game 2. Dungeon information. Huh, that's a new one. Alright, so let's see here. Looks like I left the Veil of Summers in. Not sure about that. Probably should have brought the Veils in. Maybe that's right. In any event, I brought in the Obstinate Baloth, and I brought in the Fatal Push, and I brought in the Endurance. And I took out some of the Dorks. So these cards here, while they're very good at making us go faster, they're also air when we're drawing them late in the game. So late in the game, you know, I'm going to be drawing more good cards, but early in the game, I'm not going to be able to go as fast. In this matchup, I think that's totally worth the trade-off. Alright, so we get a 1-land hand here versus this opponent. I'm not interested in that. We get another 1-land hand here. It's even worse. So we're going to get rid of this one, although with the Obstinate Baloth, we're actually kind of close to keeping it. And then finally we find a hand that we can keep. Get rid of a land and the Sage, although I was kind of thinking, like, what if I just get rid of both of my spells and leave all lands Baloth? Wouldn't it be funny if my opponent Thoughtseized my Baloth turn 1, is what I was thinking. Now instead they Thoughtseize our Endurance. So we could have had a really clever play, but instead we lose our Endurance. Opponent plays Dark Confidant, so they're also interested in a long, protracted value game. We've both switched gears. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot to play here. We're just going to play land and pass, so opponent gets to get some value out of their Dark Confidant immediately, revealing Lightning Bolt. Just playing Ragavan instead of dashing it. Not sure I agree with that. Thanks, Turtle Power. Should have taken the Baloth. Yep. Opportunity wasted. Come on, opponent. Alright, so looks like we're going to play a Grist and tick it up, make a blocker. And then they can remove the insect from the battlefield, which will allow them to attack the Grist to death. Play another Dark Confidant with a different image. Monster. Leaving 2 mana and 2 cards in hand as we start our turn. So we don't get a very good draw here. We're just going to slam land, play Baloth, which is going to get us a blocker, so they're not going to be able to easily attack into us anymore. And at this point, I'm really just kind of hoping that the Dark Confidants are going to do the job for me. The Thoughtseizes definitely help, so that puts the opponent down to 7, as they put Lurrus to their hand, and pass the turn back to me. Hey, Trillian, thanks for the raid. Hey, friends, we're just finishing off a review of Sunday's Super Qualifier. We're in round 9. Oh, thanks, Trillian. We're just doing a review today of yesterday's tournament, but thanks all the same. Thanks a lot for the raid. What were you playing today? How did you do, by the way? Where were we? So, we have Baloth in play, and basically we're just trying to hope that opponents' Dark Confidants win the game for us. So we'll play out our cards so they can't discard them with whatever. See, like, they drew Inquisition of Kozilek, so might as well have a blocker in play. They attack with Dark Confidant. We'll take that damage. Not interested in taking that trade. My win con is Dark Confidant kills the opponent, so I'm not going to take a Dark Confidant off the board. Okay, Soul Guide Lantern takes Grist out of our graveyard. This game is almost done. We get a Cutthroat, so we'll go ahead and put that onto the battlefield. But Cutthroat is not Blood Artist. If opponent's creatures die, then Cutthroat is not going to be doing much of anything. Dark Confidant reveals Unholy Heat and Prismatic Ending. So they've got 2 removal spells to be able to get rid of our problem cards. They can use Heat to get rid of Baloth. Actually, they just have Path to Exile for it. So that cleanly gets it out of the way. And that means that they're going to be able to start attacking with Lurrus, which is going to start gaining them life and is going to take this game out of range. They decide not to play Young Wolf. We get an Endurance here, which we're going to be able to slam down to perform an ambush as the opponent tries to attack into us, but I think they have a Inquisition in hand that they've already shown us, so they're going to be able to use that to clear the way. Start with a Dothy Voidwalker as well, so they're going to be able to exile whatever they remove from our hand. So there's the Inquisition. We'll put the Endurance down, targeting them to remove Delirium, and they Soul Guide Lantern us to get rid of our cards, and before they lose Delirium, Unholy Heat to get rid of Endurance, and that really seals it. Attack with all creatures here. The Lurrus is going to put him back up to 6, and Dark Confidant is not going to kill them from 6 life. We draw Dryad Arbor, a card that's in our deck to search for, not to draw. Dark Confidant reveals a pair of Darcy's, and the combat here will end the game. So let's move on to the next one. Game 3, final game of the match. We have 3 games left, including this one. Okay. So let's see here. This is what we get for the starting hand. Looks good enough to me. I would say that Past Me is going to keep this one. We got a turn 1 play. We got Baloth. Looks fine. So yeah, we slam down that Young Wolf, pass the turn back. Opponent plays Monke and passes back. Oh, plays a bauble before passing. Takes a look at our card. Sorry about that. I didn't realize that my phone was on. Getting back to it. So we got Young Wolf here. We're on the draw step. We drew Chord of Calling. Okay.
Seems like this thing is finally starting to screw up here as we're getting to the final matches. I really don't want to restart Moto for the last match. Let's see if we can get through it. Alright, so we're holding up Chord of Calling here for Dryad Arbor. They Thoughtseize, and they take our Grist. Another Thoughtseize here, so we do actually have the option to evoke Endurance using Chord of Calling, so they Thoughtseize Obstinate Baloth, but I didn't think that would be very good. It is kind of funny, though, so I thought I would mention it. And we decide not to Chord of Calling for Dryad Arbor. Oh, don't do this. Come on, just keep working. You've been doing so well, Moto. Just keep working. Come on. Alright, so we just play land and pass. Opponent has another Thoughtseize, so we're going to Chord of Calling in response to this one. Chord of Calling, go get Yawgmoth. And then the Thoughtseize puts the Baloth into play for us. Thank you, opponent. Soul Guide Lantern, probably take the Grist. Yep, takes the Grist. Leaves our graveyard as Endurance and Chord of Calling. And no attacks, because the Dragon Rage Channeler does have Summoning Sickness. Okay, so let's see here. We put a plant down through the Khalni Garden. I think I'm going to have to reset Moto after this game. We only have one more match to go, but it's no longer responding to my button presses. So we're going to reset Moto to see if we can get this thing working properly after this game. Alright, so they double block the Obstinate Baloth here. I'm fine with this trade. This trade seems great for me. I did not attack in with the Young Wolves. I did not want one of my Young Wolves to get blocked by Darcy and then we just lose it. Potentially to the Soul Guide Lantern, but looking back at it, I think attacking with the Young Wolves was actually the right play here. If we hit play, then we are going to potentially miss stuff. It might go a little bit too fast. Okay, so opponent taps out, putting Lurrus back into their hand. And we draw Yawgmoth. What a draw with the opponent tapped out. Now, unfortunately, they do have Soul Guide Lantern, so we're not going to be able to do a complete combo here. But we can attack in with the Wolves, get 2 damage in, play the Yawgmoth, and that's just going to be incredible value. With the Verdant Catacombs there as backup for the Dryad Arbor, we've got so many draws with this Yawgmoth. We also have 24 life, so feeling very confident from this position. Alright, so they do have the Path to Exile for the Yawgmoth, but we're going to respond to that. We'll go get Dryad Arbor, and we'll start doing some stuff. Okay, so the first Young Wolf, they use the Lantern to get rid of it, but we do still get the draw. We find Endurance, not bad, and we're going to use the other Young Wolf to start drawing cards. So we're able to reset it with the plant token, re-sacrifice it, reset it with the Dryad Arbor, re-sacrifice it, gaining us a ton of card draw there. Another Thoughtseize. Take Strangleroot Geist, but we're just in an incredible position. So attack for 2. They go to 2. We can just play Wall of Roots into Yawgmoth here. Oh, now it seems to have been working a little bit better there. Oh, now it's slow again. Moto. Oh, so we draw Geralf's Messenger, and we can just cast that for the win. I think we probably should have attacked first, given the opponent an opportunity to do a thing, but, I mean, like, this is still totally fine. Kaya's Gaia sacrifice a creature, gain 4 life, so we sacrifice Wall of Roots, and then we still have the combo, and they're tapped out. Okay, that's the win. Managed to win round 9 versus Mistaken, and this put us at 8-1 and in contention for top 8. As you can see here, this hand here looks pretty good, but it's actually incredibly awkward. We have Dryad Arbor in hand, so the Verdant Catacombs is not getting us Dryad Arbor. Dryad Arbor is not tapping for mana that comes into the turn it comes into play, so we're not going to be able to get a very quick start here, but I think this hand is still worth keeping. Let's see if past me agrees with me. I do keep this one. Yep, Cage is a really good card against this deck for sure. Alright, so opponent starts with Scalding Tarn. We draw Bird of Paradise. So without knowing what the opponent is playing, I think we start with Bird of Paradise. And they go get a Triome. Get a Plains, and then Prismatic Ending the bird. End the bird. And make a crab. Oh, this is weird. Why is this happening? Why don't we getting, like, the art on their cards? Maybe that'll fix itself. I hope so. In any event, I'll talk about the cards. Oh, there they go. We're starting to get the arts. They're starting to pop up. So opponent played Hard Evidence, which is a sorcery for 1 blue, create a 0/3 crab token and investigate. If you know what the opponent is playing at this point, then you are ahead of where I was. At this point, I had no idea what the opponent was doing. Because MTGO replays are bad, they're super bad. I'm actually super surprised that the replays have worked as well as they have up until now. Alright, so we have a chance to play the Dryad Arbor, play the Hierarch, but we're going pretty slow at this point. Opponent plays Steam Vents, plays Teferi Time Raveler, and bounces the Ignoble Hierarch back to our hand, really setting us back on mana. Killing our bird, bouncing our Hierarch. We could have potentially had 4 or 5 mana this turn, instead we have 2. So Wall of Roots, play Hierarch, again, you know, trying to get that mana working. Opponent cracks a Clue, and Lightning Bolts the Hierarch. They're doing their best to keep our mana at bay. We don't find land, so it looks like we're probably going to play... Oh, actually we're going to play Grist. I thought we were going to play Geist into Yawgmoth there, but it looks like we're going to go for Grist, kill Teferi. Not sure I agree with that. I think it probably would have been better to just go Yawgmoth Strangleroot Geist here. Oh, I see. Okay, this is fine. This is actually a wise play. Yep. Because the opponent's combo is set up to be able to take 1 creature on the board and then make it a giant creature that's going to kill us, this actually totally makes sense. So yeah, kill the crab. And that way they cannot combo us without a Dwarven Mine. Play Blooming Marsh. Make an insect with Grist. Eldritch Evolution. Go get Yawgmoth. Kill the dwarf. So So yeah, I'm just continuously trying to keep their board empty of creatures, really bending over backwards in order to try to do this, but opponent has hard evidence because of their Teferi Time Raveler. They're just able to throw the crab onto the battlefield end of turn, and then have the Indomitable Creativity to make an Emrakul, and that ends the game. So that's game 1 of the final match. And I mean, you can see that there's only 2 games here, so we all know how this one's going to end, but let's dive into it and see the details. Like this hand for sure. We got a Thoughtseize in it for a start. So we brought in the 2 Thoughtseize. We brought in Fatal Push as well to kill their token creatures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We took out Eldritch Evolutions. I might have been a little bit scared of counter magic, but I didn't bring in the Veil of Summers. Okay, so we do keep this one. Turn 1 Thoughtseize into turn 2 Geist. Get Swamp here. That's fine because we have the Yavimaya. We take away their creativity, but I think I was actually supposed to take the Renin 6 here. Okay, here we play Strangleroot Geist. Start attacking in. They play their Mesa, which basically is a forest because of Yavimaya. They don't even have to crack it. They can play the Renin 6 and return the Bloodstained Mire. Don't know what was going on here. I think that I was kind of, right. I don't have triple black. And there was no way to play through that. There was no way to have triple black here, I guess. Because we fetched the swamp. And I mean, this fetches black source. We just don't have the third one. So nothing we could really do here to improve that. And unfortunately, we cannot get Dryad Arbor here because we need the double black for Yawgmoth. So as much as I wanted Dryad Arbor there, just don't have the opportunity to grab it. We do get Evolution. But opponent has Prismari Command to kill the Geist. And then they're going to loot. So we'll play Yawgmoth and pass back. They'll play a Teferi, bounce the Yawgmoth. So as you can see, they're just absolutely controlling the tempo of the match here. We aren't a very fast deck as far as like attacking goes. We can combo fairly quickly, but the opponent's interaction is very well placed against us, being able to return our creatures to our hand instead of killing them. Undying doesn't work very well if they're returning to our hand. Being able to interact with our mana over and over. So if you were wondering about some axes to interact with Yawgmoth Combo, you've definitely seen some here. Okay, I thought that was going to be Indomitable Creativity, but it turned out to be a Prismatic Ending. So we play a Young Wolf and Yawgmoth. Yawgmoth kills the Dwarf. Again, keeping the opponent's side free from creatures. And another Prismatic Ending to end the Yawgmoth. We decide to keep the Young Wolf on the board as is instead of drawing a fresh card. Find another Young Wolf. Decide to attack for 2. Opponent gets a dwarf to block with. Interesting. We play Geralf's Messenger and pass back the turn. They Aether Gust one of our wolves, which we're going to put on the bottom. Renin 6 grabs a land. Prismari Command kills one of our wolves, and it looks like, what did they do with that? They loot? Yep. Getting rid of a pair of fetch lands out of their hand, giving them gas, one of which is Nahiri. Nahiri can exile tapped creatures, and exiling undying creatures is an excellent point of interaction. So the Nahiri cleans up the Geralf's Messenger. And opponent has a absolutely commanding board presence here. We'll go get a Geist so we can attack down their Renin 6 so that they aren't able to ultimate. And here they just go ahead and play Velomox, which has haste. And they're able to start attacking with it, which is going to close out the game very quickly. So writing's on the wall here, friends, but we can check out the last couple turns. Velomox does 5, makes a crab and a clue. We find a Grist, but Grist isn't really going to do too much all by itself. Grist needs friends. Another Hard Evidence, making another crab and another clue. Teferi doing work there. Velomox attacks again. Lightning Bolt our face. We go to 1 here. Oh, did the math a little bit wrong. Thought we went to 1 and Renin 6 was going to finish us, but the Bolt does it. And that was the tournament. So we finished 8-2 and finished in 13th place. And had a really fun time doing it. Don't often do these kinds of tournaments like a premiere. I think that was actually my first one ever, but had just an absolutely wonderful time doing it. And yeah, I thought that I'd like to share the results with all of you. Thanks, friends. So no, this is usually not the kind of thing that I do. Again, this is the first time that I've ever done like a review of a former event. Not something that I necessarily am going to do very often, but yeah, I think that worked out okay. If any of you are interested, have enjoyed the content today and would like to see more, I do have a YouTube channel. I also stream here on Twitch every day, or rather Monday to Friday, starting at 7 a.m. Atlantic time. This week and next week coming are a little bit weird because I'm moving. So if on any day I'm not here, that's why. It's because I had to deal with moving stuff. PK Pantsu, thanks for the follow, friend. But there's tons of content up on the YouTubes if you've enjoyed this and you want to see some more. There's a League of Yawgmoth that I played on Friday, is dropping on YouTube today at 10. So that's actually half an hour ago. And then this video will be going up onto YouTube on Wednesday. I also play a lot of Pauper content, so if you enjoy Pauper or are interested and would like to learn more about Pauper, then I'm here for that too. All right, friends, we'll do a raid in just a little bit. Want to break down the deck just for a minute. So this is the deck that I was playing during the event. Based it off of a lot of the decks that I've played previously, and most recently off of Hoogland's deck list. He was notably running the pair of Grists, 1-1 in the main and the side, and running the Reclamation Sage in the main, and running Fatal Push in the side over the Culling Ritual or Punishment. This configuration is actually pretty great in the meta. I'm really starting to dig the spell board, And I think that anybody looking for a really good Yawgmoth list would be pretty well off to start with this one. I think the only major changes I made between my list and Hoogland's list was I was playing a Spellskite instead of the 4th Wall of Roots, and I'm playing a Bird of Paradise instead of another land, I think a 4th Twilight Mire. In any event, I think that Yawgmoth Combo is very well positioned right now in the meta. It has a good Hammer Time matchup, and I think that there's also still some points to get from people that don't understand how our deck works. So you're going to get a couple of free wins still with this.